Yeah.
starting it.
I think in court, they just need to turn it off.
Which should be set up correctly already. Okay, we're going.
Are you ready? I'd like to call this town board meeting to order for Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024. You want to do a roll call?
So we just have an attendance roster. It's not necessarily a special meeting or a regular meeting. So currently, right now, other than Matt Nyberg, I have a full 7 board. So I'll just record when he comes in.
He
That's
called
okay.
me, it was 5 after 6 or something. He sounded like he was trying to get here.
Okay.
Yeah. Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up is the leadership statements.
Yeah, so the leadership statements were from the June 25th meeting, and then Marie has provided basically her goals for HR department, and then Josh has been busy all over town, most of our town facilities getting things updated, so we'll get kind of that updated before your next meeting on the 7th of August, your next budget meeting anyway.
Does the board have any questions? Next is capital improvements.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that you saw the capital improvements from 2024. So what's in page 22 of the packet is the 2024 capital improvement that was adopted in the budget, and then we had a supplement in April of 2024, basically to update some of the capital improvements that could not be finished in 2023 that had to be moved over into 2024. So all of those are on page 23 and the top half of 24. So just wanted to make sure you knew what those capital improvements were. And then we're going to go through this. As we go through this, you're going to see some items that maybe won't get done or some that will get done. And those are the dark green patches are the capital improvements that will be completed.
Does the board have any questions at this point?
Nope.
So you want to start in with the general?
Yes, well, so we can start in with administration. And we just kind of got this finished, I think, today. We had to hustle and make some switch those meetings from the 30th to the 23rd. Patrick Rondinelli wanted to apologize. I don't know if you've heard the Norwood, they kind of had to close their offices. So the town manager, the town clerk, and deputy town clerk and kind of a finance director all left Norwood. So he's been dealing with that in his area. He just asked to move that first meeting to the 30th. So just so you're aware, he is planning to be here on the 30th, and you should have gotten the email. He just wants you to respond to the survey, so he kind of gets a feel for kind of where all of you are at. So anyway. The admin, the boardroom technology upgrades, the one thing that we found out when we added Spillman, and by the way, the police chief is dealing with a shooting, an active shooting right now, so that's why he'll be here a little bit later, just out here on Bayfield Parkway. So the technology upgrades, we had to clear out a lot of problems with getting a 1 gig speed to town hall. It was about almost an $8,000 invoice. They've lowered it to about $5,500, and that'll be up for your decision on the 6th of August, which would be your regular meeting, to approve that invoice. And as you know, technology is not going to decrease. They are also going to provide a list of the actual cost of actually supporting the town of Bayfield, including our storage issues, being able to store gigabytes and the terabytes that we currently have in our network, including the software platforms like Cassell. A lot of those platforms take a lot of space. So we're looking at quite an increase from about $9,000 to about $12,000 a month for those technology upgrades. So and the $10,000 in 2025 is just looking at all the other additional upgrades that we could be doing that we need to do actually in this boardroom, probably more than anything, and then town hall specifically. So and if you have any questions, we're going to really pay attention to 2025, 2026, and 2027 when we get some of these further ones out. We may just note them, but not necessarily spend a whole lot of time on them. So if you have any questions, please stop me. So to recognize the past pioneers, we took down the sign and the plaque that was for harm that was on the flower bed that you see out there. We did Patty and Harm's daughter. They want to make sure that we recognize the pioneers. Ed Moreland has been somebody that we want to recognize in this area for economic development and the improvement on Mill Street. And then Joe Stevenson, which the park is named after. So we're looking at it actually was in 2024, but we're moving it to 2025. We have no idea what this is going to cost. $15,000 may just get us just an initial design and landscape architectural for that area, not necessarily the whole sculpture or whatever that may be. But we're going to start getting to ideas. We had, I'm sorry, I forget her name. Casey was here today. And so she'll look at, and they'll go out for advertisement. There's not advertisement, but they go out and they find basically ideas from other artists to recognize those 3 pioneers.
And Katie, we talked about that being grant funded.
Oh, it'll be grant funded, probably not the architecture or the landscape architecture. So I don't have any idea what those types of sculptures will cost, but it's going to be more than $15,000. We've been looking for grant funds for quite a while. There's just nothing that quite matches what we want to do. In fact, we did apply for Kubota, and we were not awarded for that. And because we have a swag dealership right in town, or not in town, but that supports the town, we weren't awarded. So it's going to be kind of tough. But we did, when we took down the sign and the plaque actually fell off, we did tell Patty and his daughter that we would put something up. And of course, with Ed Moreland, the board has in the past promised Jackie there'd be something put up, and of course Joe Stevenson, and somewhat is his past is, we're still gathering that information about Joe Stevenson. So
I'll just say it's easier to get grant funding if you have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of want to get some concept, and then we have an idea, because there's different levels of grant funding from different types of industries. And so, like, there's some where you get students involved, or, I mean, there's just different things that we can look into, but until we really have a plan, it's hard to know exactly. Like Kay said, it's hard to really pinpoint a grant for this type of thing.
Okay.
I had a question for the sound sign coming into Bayfield from the west. Can we renew that? It was a pretty sign at one point, but it needs to be, the weeds whacked down around it and touched up.
Is it on the highway?
It's on the, when you come into town from 160, past homes.
Finding sign, the monument sign, that's got the stone and stuff on it.
No, it looked wood to me, but it's kind of hard to see around the bottom. I'm talking about the old one. It's a pretty sign. It's just, it needs to be renewed.
Oh, it's on the other side of the bridges.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just happened to notice that when I was coming in this evening, I was saying, now that's a nice sign, but it needs to be fixed up.
So we were gonna replace those at one time in like 2018 or 2019, they had a replacement project. But, you know, certainly we need to keep up what we certainly have in good shape.
I mean, I just glanced at it, but it looked like a nice sign, and it could be restored, it looked like, and cut down the weeds around it.
Do you want it restored, or do you just want the weeds cut around it?
It looked like it needed a little restoring too, some paint. I'd have to look at it closely.
Okay.
Yeah, and those signs is the same, like on the east portion of Mill Street where we did the gateway. It's the same style of sign. Since then, we've adopted different wayfinding signs.
Right.
So maybe we should look at replacement and bringing those up to date as well, and replacing the sign versus a restoration. But we definitely can get the weeds cut and make sure that it looks presentable when we drive into town. That's completely doable.
Yeah.
And there's money in here for wayfinding, so
I'm sorry?
there is money in here later for
That's
wayfinding.
correct. The town hall storage and parking expansion, basically, that would be where the police department is parking. We've talked about having more storage out in that area and actually expanding that parking basically into a little bit further east. So there's a little bit more parking out there. After, there's a tree that we cut down out there. You know, we're mowing a lot of grass over there that, you know, it's unusable grass, but there is I don't know if it's a lift station or some type of sewer infrastructure there, so,
The manholes that come through?
yeah, there you go,
That's actually
manhole.
the bean ditch.
Yeah.
So the bean ditch runs through here and then cuts through and goes over to Trustees Park.
Yeah. The transformative grant, looks like all we would have to do is mulch, sprinklers, and staff time, and that would be 2025. And that grant at the last meeting was approved by the Board of Trustees to proceed with that. And we will hear on that award soon. Okay. The Jaden Memorial Bench at Conoco, my guess is that's going to be around $60,000. So Ed Wilmot, he is the father of the young lady that was murdered at the Speedway. They've been collecting money. They would like to put kind of a Serenity bench at that corner. That corner is actually regulated by CDOT. So we're going to kind of catch up with our town engineer, kind of find out where we are with just permitting that and determining, you know, any design or any concept even to get there. So I know he's been very impatient, and in a lot of ways I don't blame him. I think some of the, you know, they used to put all the flowers and memorials up on Speedway, and he's been very good. The family and the friends have been very good about taking all that down. After, you know, before winter, before the snow flies. So I do know that he would like to see something up. That would probably be moved in a sooner year. It just kind of depends on if we can kind of get through the CDOT permitting process in that area. The historical walking tour, probably more part of the Mill Street Middle, but there are some signs that we think that we can replace that are not on Mill Street, especially in front of Pine River Shares. There's a sign, most of them have been very dilapidated. So I think that $6,000 would do some repairs for signs that would not be actually replacing sidewalk and then replacing these signs again on the Mill Street Middle portion. So we have about $6,000 in that. If we ever do the signs on Mill Street Middle, we would probably, that would probably be in a different budget item with that whole project.
And is there grant funding available for that? I think we talked about that, too, possible grant funding.
So from my understanding, the Historical Society was the one that got funding for the first set, and including, there's actually a little pamphlet, you can take a historical walking tour. Most of the historical grants would come if you had a historical board, preservation board, and the town of Bayfield does not have one, a historic preservation board. So we may see if the Historic Society would be interested in doing something like that for those type of grants. It would probably come with to recognizing the past pioneers. That could be one and the same. However, we still have to figure out what it's going to cost and exactly nail down exactly which ones we could be replacing. So these are some big ticket items as far as cameras. And on the very last page, on page 17, just so you can take that all in, this is the cost for the cameras, total cameras in Town Hall. I'm guessing as part of the police department, Parks and Trails, sewer, and water.
Town hall does include.
Okay. So the $40,000 is probably, you'd have to start with that one first, because you have to buy the server that's with the, actually have to have a server to store all those videos. So this is in capital improvements. The admin is Town Hall, Senior Center, and then the 1 year of support would probably go into operations and not necessarily in capital improvements. The one thing about usually the first year maintenance, sometimes you can include that, but we would definitely have to go back to the auditors just to verify that it's an appropriate capital improvement for the town.
So Katie, does the Stone Security, do they monitor the system as well, or is this just cameras that you would have and monitor
So
yourselves?
that's going to be a question for Chief Hogue. So
Okay.
I'll just put a note in here that when he gets here, we'll see if we can.
Okay, thank you. Just curious if there's another fee to that, annually or monthly, whatever.
No more questions, or I don't have anything else on that first page unless anybody else does. So the senior center ramps, we believe that we can get those senior center ramps done this year. The $10,000, they're not ADA compliant, and there is a tripping hazard at the senior center. So we're looking at updating those ramps. We actually the previous facilities and grounds person wanted to do it last year. We just asked that it just be moved into this year. We have Josh now on board, and I think we're gonna be able to get that done.
Yeah, I called Charlie with Snooks to come look at them today. We're just waiting for someone to come out and give us a quote on it.
And then the town hall, basically, it's always cheaper to save a street versus repairing and redoing a street. So this would be $5,000, and this is still this is for curb stops for this year that we're going to get done. And actually, we got it much cheaper than $5,000.
Yeah,
Yep.
came up to be, I think, around
Yep.
2.
So now back to the parking lot resurface. Basically, it is cheaper to preserve it versus repairing it. So looking at 2025, basically for a crack seal, slurry, and striping, and of course for a couple of years after that, basically to preserve the street or the parking lot. And again, in the senior center lot resurface, the crack seal, slurry, and striping. Again, the same thing. It is cheaper to save that parking lot versus trying to redo that.
Does that include the lot outside of it that
is kind of asphalt, but half dirt and a bunch of chunks always are coming up out of it.
No, it's just.
I'm not a very expert on parking lot.
No.
That's all just road millings.
Okay.
So unfortunately, with the last repaving project we did, they opted to remove versus mill for a full reconstruction. So there's a whole lot of appeal for that. But yeah, it'd just be basically when you pull in from the end of South Street and then that current pavement and asphalt, that they would actually refurbish versus letting it go too much longer than end up with a replacement. So keeping the water out's huge for pavement. So that's really what we're trying to accomplish.
Expanding that parking was part of the parks plan, wasn't it?
The senior center.
Exterior
Yeah.
parking lot, yes.
Yeah.
There's something going there.
But,
That was all done with all the millings and stuff. That exterior parking lot?
yeah, the exterior is rolled millings,
Yeah,
so we're just talking the interior portion.
oh,
And handicap ramp and then handicap parking as well. And we'd like to see if we can do some maintenance versus end up letting the water get in and have an actual replacement, so.
But it's proposed to be upgraded with the,
Master
Trustees and Park Master Plan, including, I think, pickleball courts in that area.
The exterior parking lot.
Wouldn't include the road to the senior center, that's what you're talking about, though.
No, I was talking, well, kind of the road too. I mean, it's all falling apart, but I was talking about that.
Gravel
Yeah,
parking
it's-
spot.
It's asphalt, but
Yeah.
dirt, yeah.
Yeah.
The kids go and do donuts in it, and all of a sudden there's massive chunks shot out of it.
Yes, that would be included in the park.
Yeah, okay.
And the park plan, the proposal is to pave all our parking and stripe it, so it's, you know exactly where to park.
Like that.
Jeremy, have you guys ever considered permeable surfaces that allow water to seep through and not erode the top road?
Yeah, I'm just not sure if a parking lot's necessarily the best application for a permeable surface. Just with the freeze and thaw cycles that you get here, sometimes that application can work in a different climate. So what we try and want to prevent is heating. And then one thing that we see with a lot of geotech reports is that we have expansive soil. So with, yeah, I mean, that's above my pay grade.
It
but
moves.
Something we can talk to a geotech about as far as the application and use of that. But, yeah, for some of the other portions, there is a good application.
I just read an article on polymer, and polymer used as a sealant, connective way, that it literally bends and moves with the land, and it expands and contracts. So I don't know if that's worth just looking into. I don't know that it would be less expensive, but it'd be nice to have something that we didn't have to keep replacing, or we could extend once it's laid.
Sure. And
Yeah.
that's definitely a technology we could.
You use that in landscaping a lot, you know,
Mhm.
with pavers and stuff, polymers
Sure.
and it is a great product for parking lot. I would say cost would be pretty.
Would be something, yeah.
Because if you're gonna use pavers to do a whole parking lot, asphalt probably $40-50 a yard, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no.
Right.
And I wasn't thinking that, but I do know that they have new technologies for that. And so, a lot of times these things cost way more on the front end, but the longevity of them pays for themselves in
Yeah, I
the,
think it makes up for it in the long run, and
Mhm.
you're better off spending a little bit up front.
yeah. Anyways, I just was curious about that.
So the next two are exterior paint for the senior center and exterior paint for town hall. Actually, our last facilities and grounds person wanted to do it last year, and I told him it just was not in the cards for last year. So this actually is not necessarily for next year. We think 2026. Those buildings will all be 18 years old in 2026. That's probably a good time to paint them versus trying to kind of rehabilitate the exterior of these buildings by the time they get to be 20 or 25 years old. So warehouse storage and ladder, that all got done this year, a little safer, and actually a CIRSA, they pointed that out to make sure that it was safe for storage above the office area. So I'm gonna let Nicole kind of go over these EPC things and kind of explain some of the grants down to those EPC items.
Yeah, so the EPC is the energy performance contracting. So if the board opts to move forward with that, these would be the capital projects. So you'll see this throughout this lives and grounds. You'll see some, one in wastewater and one in water, because those are enterprise funds, so they have to have their CIP. But the goal is to get the projects done in 2025. And then, again, we pay it back through energy savings. However, Josh and I met with our team today in McKinn Street, and they said there's a lot of grant funding out there that the projects that we're looking at right now, we might be able to find enough money to fund it all and not have to pay anything back. And then just get the energy savings from all the improvements. So that's our aim. I'm not gonna 100% guarantee that, but our aim would be to find enough grant funding where the town doesn't have to pay for any of these improvements, and then we just have energy savings back to us that we can use for other things. So the energy savings, lighting is lighting townwide, so we still have old incandescent lights here at Town Hall, at the senior center, at the parks, maintenance building, so we need to update those to the LED lights. And so that would be $151,000. Building envelope, so this is just making sure our windows are sealed appropriately and that we are conserving energy that way throughout our, and again, these are all town facilities except for water and wastewater, which have their own funds. Indoor water conservation, so just making sure we have updated fixtures. Our building, Town Hall was built in 2008. The Parks building was 2008. Senior Center was 2010. So they have some older fixtures, and technology's come a long way in terms of toilets and sinks. And so just making sure that we have the most energy saving fixtures for saving water. And then smart irrigation controllers. So these are just making sure that all of our irrigation controllers, which I know we have a lot of zones throughout all facilities, are smart enough where when it rains, they don't have to come on. And so we want to make sure that we just have the most updated controllers that can save us money with the water usage there. And then the senior center, right now we're looking at a ground source heat pump. So essentially it's geothermal, using what's underground to help heat and cool the building so that it's a more comfortable building to be used. And so that's pretty pricey, but again, we think we might be able to find the grant funding to try and cover all of that as well. So again, putting all those in 2025, we get them all done at once, and then we reap the benefits of the energy savings, whether we're using that to pay back the cost of doing this, or whether we have enough grant funding that we don't have to pay anything, which is, again, the hope.
I'm probably pretty weird, but I get pretty excited about grant funding. Especially with our little town and not having the kind of funding that we really need to address a lot of these things. So I look forward to that in a way that you're not stepping over millions to pick up a $1 bill, which is awesome.
And then I also just want to throw kudos to Josh, because he's able to just jump right in, and he's done something similar in past jobs, and so it's nice to have somebody else there helping me go through this and making sure we're doing everything right for the town.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
So, the building control, the air conditioning, heating in this building, has that been addressed? Because I know at one point, like when Joe was here, he was putting new thermostats in. Did that take care of it, or has there been something? It did help a lot?
It did, especially even in here, where you remember how we could cool things off or heat things up in the wintertime. And we had GARs come out, and when we installed this thermostat, they had to do some stuff to the units on the roof to make them talk better. And then we found out that the thermostats in the main atrium area were not on, which is why it was freezing in there, and they were all tied together. I'm a layman explaining this. to you.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm a layman listening to it.
But, yeah, so this room and out there were all kind of tied together, and it wasn't working properly, and so I think ours really like fixed
Yeah, it
it.
was a wiring configuration problem. The old thermostats were wired differently than what the new thermostats needed. Thankfully, our units had that capability just to switch that wiring configuration over and it worked, is what I got from those.
So we're not.
Something to keep in mind is they are getting old.
We're old, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm wondering about, we're doing all this energy conservation. I just want to know what kind of expense we might run into just having heat and air conditioning in this building.
I mean, I know that the McKinstry did look at what other options we would have for this building, but I don't think they came with a really reasonably inexpensive solution. Like the geothermal for the senior center would be a little bit more tricky here, they said, just based on how ours were set up. So we can set and look into that, but this didn't make the cut in terms of the ones that we thought would be the best bang for our buck. And again, this isn't gonna come to you till probably beginning of January. So things can change with Josh on board, and Josh is really learning, he's really understanding our facilities more. He can kind of, offer some other suggestions. But ultimately, they're gonna try and just provide us with a menu of options that are gonna be the best bang for our buck in terms of energy efficiency. So right now, they're not on there, but again, when they come back to you with the audit, it's possible that staff might recommend some other things that are not on the list right now.
So I just want to clarify, it'll be adopted in the budget before January,
Right,
if that's the way the board
right.
desires, but anything coming back, I think we even have it done it here, is that there's certain things that you may find are conditional that come back to you for your, consideration, and that can certainly be restricted to come back, after McKinstry's.
Well, we also talked about phase two. So phase two could be 2026, yeah. So I don't know if we'll change much for 2025, but there are other things that we can look at that we can do in 2026. Because we have a big list for 2025 already. So I don't know if 2025 will change much, but we might have some ideas moving forward with other things that we can do.
Yeah, I'm not asking to add it as much as, do we have anything in the budget this year for this building as far as HVAC? We don't have any,
That is not in there.
okay.
I think the goal is, keep in mind that when, at some point, prior to most of us here, that the computer that ran the heating and cooling in this got dumped or removed or recycled or whatever, because they didn't want to pay the maintenance agreement. So we do have somebody that's actually going to help us through that, and I think that, having a good, competent idea of how this building operates. Right now it's summertime, and I've still got an employee that's wrapped up in a coat. The thing is trying to figure out how to, for comfort for everybody. And then coming up with a determination. I've sat in here with GARS for many hours talking about what we need to do to update it, and I'm not the person that really can competently say, oh, that's a great idea, let's go forward. So now we have somebody that can do that.
I think in the meantime, reserving a replacement, fund for any of these that could go out at any time. And I know Josh is just getting started and going through all this, but, if one of these goes out, you're looking at 10,000 plus probably to replace it.
Right.
Reserving that just in case every year can not get better.
We have like 8.
There's 4 or 5 right here, and then there's 3 or 4 AC units in the network.
Those are good questions, though. So town hall irrigation, maybe I'll let those that deal with the irrigation, basically on the south side of town hall, kind of refer to that.
Yeah, so we have some issues. I don't know who installed the irrigation system here. Some of them have too many heads per zone. kind of done, you know, with nozzles and trying to get the best, you know, that we can with what we have, but there's still lack of coverage, so really it just needs to be redone.
So is this taking into account the changes in the parking? The police
This
parking?
is the south side. That would be the north side.
Oh, it says south and southeast
Well,
here.
it's
So
also,
it's just over on.
yeah, so it's
okay.
not, doesn't have anything to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trying to not touch this area too much because we're asking for that grant to remove turf at kind of more of our entrance.
Mm-hmm.
And then know that we might be parking lot in that area, so we really don't want to waste any money. in that
Right.
area.
Okay.
So, Josh, would you like to speak on the town hall rock out mulch in?
Yeah, so this 30,000 that I have here budgeted would be to remove all the rock around town hall. It's full of weeds, the weed barriers worn out and torn, not doing its job anymore. So it'd be to remove all that, replace any of the dead shrubs that are there, and fix all the irrigation, drip irrigation within those areas around town hall to get it back up to date and looking good. And I'm hoping to sub it out to a contractor to help do the work.
Any other questions there on that page? Maybe just because the chief is out, maybe we just come back to the police department. So let's go to Parks and Trails, if you don't mind, on page 4. Well, the big 5 boxes that will be done. The first 5 rows there will be done in 2024. And then we have continued to buy bear-proof trash cans, which goes out a little bit further. Next year would be $6,000, and then every year to keep adding those bear-proof trash cans around some of the park facilities. So, and then I'm gonna so we've already talked about the camera system. Are there any questions on the camera systems? This is for the Joe Stevenson Park concession stand, and then the park maintenance shop.
Point one of those cameras into that dirt lot.
I'm sorry?
Point one of those cameras into that dirt lot.
Okay.
One of the parts and recs have been robbed a few times.
Oh, really?
Our camera system does cover some of it, not all of it, but it covers 360 all the way around the whole building.
It's got hit, broken in your place twice.
Well, we've been hit 3 times. Once they were successful, once they were unsuccessful, and then the 3rd time they sold stuff out in the yard.
I'm curious, how many bear cans does $6,000
I was
buy?
wondering that myself.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive. They're about $1,200 a piece.
Okay.
They're not cheap. We are doing pretty good in that area, but we want, we've almost replaced all of the cans that were not bear-proof, and switched that to bear-proof, but we want to add more. These guys are just hauling tons of trash every week, so we need to keep adding more cans, especially down there.
So you see bear activity weekly?
Personally, I haven't seen any bear activity.
Uh-huh.
I know we did have a mountain lion in the park that Game and Fish was warning us about. We did have something get into the roll-off that we had for the 4th of July, which I'm assuming is a bear. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's pretty big and see a small, and it drove large items of trash out of there. They actually that are big. But in Ignacio, I know Jeremy can speak, and when I worked over there, they had a huge problem with bears over there. I haven't seen it, I don't know if the police department has a lot of bear calls, but no, I have not seen too much myself.
I know we have years where we do and years where we don't, and I think it's
Right.
just based on their food source, but,
Sure.
okay.
And sometimes it's based on if you didn't have bear-proof trash cans, you start to attract them versus when they can't, they're not successful.
There's a big population of them that run up and down the river. I see 4 or 5 a year in my field, so.
Yeah, my friend who lives right across from the senior center caught on his camera a bear that was been active down there. So there is activity down there.
Mama and 2 cubs was there just a couple weeks ago. Those ones are scary.
Yeah, they are.
From that.
Definitely habitat for
Yeah.
Those are the metal cans that we have down there now.
Yeah, the square.
And are you fitting those? I noticed that there's a few fitted with the round.
Yeah, so we've been trying to, kind of modify them a little bit to keep the public from putting their household giant kitchen trash bags in there. And actually it's worked pretty well. We have had some where they just leave it by the can. We still got more to do down at Roadside and Little Pine, which is where we have the most problem, but spring and summer came and we don't have time to modify trash cans right now, but we will continue that in the winter. We got all the materials to do it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so far it's worked pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let Mark continue on Gosney Park.
So, yeah, I know I've been talking to you guys about, trying to put shade structures, over our, more modern playground, and Gosney would be the next. I've got 2 quotes, the lowest I've got was 52, the other one's like 74. Gosney, I kinda thought was gonna be a little less, cause it is a little smaller playground than, Mesa. It is kind of wider, I guess, with the other equipment, but that's the lowest I've got. I'll keep working on getting quotes for that. And then, of course, you know, the pros to that is, you know, reducing burdens to the public for equipment and, prolonging the equipment, you know, from the UV rays from the sun. The skate park, I know we've been talking about that a lot too. I do have a bid from American Ramp Company, and a bid from a local, concrete repair resurface company to fix the concrete. And those 2 combined are $52,259, which I thought was pretty affordable, to get brand new equipment, get that old stuff that's not compliant, out of there and, fix the concrete. The cool thing about this equipment is it has a 20-year warranty. So we could possibly resell this equipment if the park plan does go through. So we wouldn't just be, you know, buying this and then what do we do with it now? We spent $50,000 on this, you know, equipment. So we could sell it, probably get half of our money back, I would assume. So that's, and the American Ramp Company is actually the one who brought this to my attention, and this is something that they do. But they are taking out all these, there's similar ones like we have all over the state, and they're removing them and replacing them, so. I think it's something that we should move forward. We're still, with the park plan, in the very beginning stages of, and, you know, it could be 2 to 5 years before even phase 1 starts. So we can't just let it lag. We gotta do something about it.
So Americans, he has been talking about actually doing a grant application for us.
Right.
So that would, and we don't have any idea where he'd be submitting that at this point.
You know, for something this small, I mean, you know, the Tony Hawk Foundation's out
Probably
there.
do it.
There's options out there for grant funding
Yeah.
for skate parks. With the $1 million, park plan to do the pump track and the skate park, I don't know if the Tony Hawk would go that far, but there's other, they would do that for
Yeah.
us. They're gonna help get information from, the community is what they want and help get, but that'd probably be more of the, GOCO grant for that.
And this was one of the locations that was identified in our search and safety audit last year as well, so keep that in mind too.
How much is the concrete gonna cost?
It was 4,400.
Is that included in here?
Yes.
Okay.
And I didn't think that was bad either. Structurally, the concrete is not lifting, it's just got a bunch of cracks in it, so it's gotta have rebar in it. I think it's probably 70 yards of concrete if we were to rip that out and replace it, and as Cash knows, that's a lot more money than what we're looking at.
It'd be like anywhere from $650 to $750 a yard at that point.
I think that since CIRSA has identified this as a liability, that adds more need to get it done. Because if CIRSA hadn't identified that, and then we have an incident, we've been told, so,
Right. We have to correct it.
yes.
We can.
The other option is to get rid of it and then.
Just, yeah, just close it.
Other places around town,
Yeah.
we have to get rid of it.
Do we have a lot of skaters in town? Do we know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't hear them going down Mesa?
You'll
Yeah,
see them
but
on
I
Mill
only hear them
Street.
going down Mesa. I don't see them down at the park.
There's quite a few.
It's full most of the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot. We have, with putting in lights and stuff, we did have a lot of vandalism problems there and.
Yeah, I know that.
We kind of cleaned that up a lot, but I think I have, pictures of what the new equipment would look like too, if you guys wanted to see that. But it's basically a footprint of what we have now, just
Mhm.
brand new equipment.
Well, with little for kids to do in this community,
Right.
it's a twofold benefit.
Grocery store parking lots and the schools
Mhm.
and, it's a place for them to go do that, so. And then the additional, office space at the park, shop, I did get a bid from a contractor that's done some work for Jeremy, done similar work. He actually built the park shop, so he knows it very well. That came in at like 37,000, but it's a metal building, so we gotta have an architectural stamp on it, and all that extra stuff, so, I left a little leeway there. But that would basically just, the office that we have, extend that further out, so where Ben and Joe can have a workstation. Right now, they don't have a computer workstation, they have a little desk with a laptop on it out in the shop where we're working, cutting, grinding, working on cars and stuff like that. So that would give them their own personal space. And, as part of it grow, we're gonna need more people, so it's something that's gonna need to be done. I didn't think that was a bad price on that either. We do already have the roof and the lean-to, but we need exterior walls, a slab, windows, doors, stuff like that, so. That project. And then this topsoil and compost holding bin, we buy our topsoil from Durango Nursery. It's anywhere from $120 to $200 a yard, depending on how good of a mixture you want. We use a lot of topsoil every year. When we planted our trees, we bought, I think, 3 loads, trailer loads of topsoil. We're using it out on the grass all the time. We cannot purchase enough, like the fields, the soccer fields, the south and the north softball, more of the south softball field. It's rocky, hard, tough soil. We're watering it, we're fertilizing it, we're trying to amend it with, fertilizer, polymer. I'm throwing everything but the kitchen sink at it to get it to grow. My thoughts are, for a good lawn, we need good soil. And I know personally from doing all the excavation with a sprinkler system, it is horrible soil. It's full of river rock, it's anywhere from that big to as big as you can carry. So if we could add, a half inch of soil to those fields every year and slowly build that up to where it's got good composted soil that'll hold the moisture, this would be an amazing investment.
Well, I like the way you think.
Right,
That's a great idea.
yeah. This is the hardest area I've ever had to, craft, so next step would be to add and just add soil improvement. And then I kind of just put in some numbers based on the preliminary cost that we have from a number of studios on the master park plan. Actually, on phase 3, we just put it in unknown because we're not sure where we're at or where that's going, but matching funds for phase 1 would be $3 million, quite a bit of money. I did put some numbers together for the future, 2026, and even going down further, for new playground equipment for Joe Stevenson and Eagle Park. They're getting old, the paint's coming off of them, the slides, the plastic, is torn up from the sun. So at some point, we check those every month, we make repairs, we keep them safe. But eventually we're going to need to replace them. I'm sorry, this is for, replacing the sand in, Joe Stevenson Park playground. SARSA has kind of given us guidance every year. It's not something that they say we have to do because the ground cover at the playground is sand at Joe Stevenson Park. It is okay to use, it's just the impact continuation, if the kid falls off, gets his head on. The mulch has more resistance than the sand. The sand is more of a hard impact, but it can be used, but they're telling us we should put mulch like the rest of the parks have. So that would mean taking out all the sand, taking out the weed barrier, new weed barrier, new mulch, and make Sursa happy. It's not something I think that we have to do, but it's probably something that we should do. And vehicles, as you know, a lot of our vehicles are early 2000 models, 2004. They're in decent shape. They're not too bad on mileage. They're not, we're not throwing a lot of money at them with maintenance and repairs right now. But that is something, in the future that most likely is going to happen. With vehicles that are that old, they're going to start nickel and diming you, and it's probably just going to be cheaper to replace them and continue to keep up in the older vehicle. Phase 2 for Joe Stevenson's, 2,300,000. I also tried for the tractor that we have. It's a 2006. It's got a lot of hours on it. It's in good shape. It works. But just like the trucks, it's probably something that's going to need to be replaced over time. Power tools in our trailer, same thing. They're old. Attachments. All of our attachments are working great, but again, they are old. And then back to the playground equipment. So, yeah, we're going to need to replace that at some time. Whether that gets done with the park plan or it doesn't, this is still something that I'm forecasting, that needs to be done because it is old. For Joe Stevenson and Eagle Park, another vehicle. I don't know, you guys drive down 160, you see all the people down at the Little Pine Park getting free for summertime, it's just packed. We're currently using a porta potty down there. Porta potty from the company I'm using is definitely affordable, but I don't think it's sustainable for the amount of people that are down there. We did do, SGN that kicks costs.
Yeah, it was SGN.
Utility quotes, yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have no utilities down there. We do, but they're, I don't know, how, we can't use them.
They're not, they're
So my thoughts is a composting toilet. Instead of spending $500,000 to get water, sewer, and bathroom bill, it is kind of like contractor that does that, that's not too inexpensive. I've talked to, like some of the camp hosts and stuff out at the campsites around Bayfield. They have them done, every month, and it's pretty reliable. So something to look at in the future, unless we do get infrastructure over there. I know we have water on the other side of the highway, but it's on the other side of the highway. So our closest is North Street, and that's a long way away from the parks to get infrastructure there. So composting toilet, it's not the greatest, but it's better than the porta potty in my, so I think that would be great. I would also like to do some landscaping at Little Pine Park, just because it is probably our most used park in the summertime, besides Joe Stevenson. It is kind of a natural park right now, but to do some irrigation, we got the irrigation ditch right there. I believe we should be able to tap into that. That'd be something I would have to investigate and look into. But I think it would be nice to have a nice lawn and have some asphalt for the road, instead of the gravel like we have now. It is a beautiful park, but I think that we could use some improvement.
Did I? Sorry.
So I do want to, if we do replace the shade or the playground equipment at Joe Stevenson and at Eagle, I want to put shade structures over those as well. I think that number's quite a bit higher than what it would actually be. So we'll relook at that. I would say by then it's, you could at least estimate 10 or 15% above what we're paying currently for what we have now. And then matching funds for phase 3 of Joe Stevenson Park master plan, under $1 million, so that's good. And then just more lawn and landscape equipment, as our mowers and everything, wears out, we gotta replace those, so. I did not put, I know we have to switch to battery powered stuff, but we're gonna do that for operational cost, because it's not gonna be above $5,000, so I didn't really consider that as a capital improvement. So I'm gonna buy that some this year and some next year to replace all that through our operational costs. That's a lot, but if you guys have questions on any of that, I think more than
Are you having to go to battery powered like mowers too?
no, because it's gas powered only, so our mowers are all diesel, so we're fine for now, unless the state.
Changes something up.
So the one thing in the general fund that's unlike some of the other expenditures is that we do have a conservation trust fund. We receive lotto dollars into that fund that can go to like shade structures, playgrounds, and things like that. Maybe not necessarily tractors, but anything that has to do with outdoor, as long as it's an eligible expense. And then the capital improvement fund, we also are collecting a park in lieu fee and also a park facility impact fee. So our assessment for 2024 we would have approximately $140,000 in that fund. That's only restricted to eligible expenses that actually the board determined via ordinance. So and we are continuing to collect that, especially as we have more homes going in as well. Well, so I think maybe we'll just do the police department, seeing as we're in the general, well, we'll go to culture and rec, sorry. On page 7, we'll just do that, and maybe give Chief another couple minutes. So Dustin is on vacation this week, and we just wanted him to have a real vacation. So the ice machine for Joe Stevenson Park is basically somewhat similar to the one that's at the senior center. Our understanding is that it would be basically for accidents that happen. You know, you need an ice pack instead of using the commercial things that you crinkle up when they get, ice cold. Also for other things that they would need at the concession stand. And then the floor cleaning machine, from our understanding that the floor cleaning machine that we spent a lot of effort and time in getting for the senior center and town hall is still the carpet cleaning still works. But this is basically to clean the gym floor. That has been a real challenge for us at the old middle school to clean that floor. We still have Pine River Shares that uses that, and there are some uses that they don't clean up after themselves, that we don't have any. We're not aware that they're using it, but that floor really needs to be cleaned, and so this is what they have proposed. There, we have a recreation coordinator. He's kind of got an open office, and would like basically some, panels, I think what he was talking about, or actually just build in an office. I mean, it's a nice space. It could be a nice little office for the recreation coordinator. And of course, there's a lot of traffic that goes down up and down that hall where that office is. So we just decided to put about $8,000 in there to actually close that in, put a door, and actually make it an office. And if nothing else, we may go back to some type of panels. I know there's a lot of office buildings that have those used panels, so we may even just start with that, just see how that works as well. Seasonal employees just used for clocking in and clocking out. I do know that not many of us are happy with our current time card system. The time card system does not work on your phone. The last one did work on our phone. And so there's a lot of things that he could do better if he had a laptop that could be at the concession stand instead of coming back and forth between the concession stand where most of his seasonal and temporaries work back to town hall. So,
Katie, with that, because I do the books for both the Durango baseball and softball league along with the soccer, they have a lot of umps and they go through their umps like crazy. They have a time clock app that you can load on your phones, and they can check in and you can monitor that. And so that's a potential.
We used to
option.
have one like that.
Okay, yeah. It works really well for them.
I thought the last one worked very well.
Yeah.
But
gotcha.
I haven't been very happy with Cassell here recently, and that's been an issue. So anyway, we have experts now working on that, right?
Yes.
Right, ladies?
Yeah, and with the time card system we have now, I think that there was some cost savings associated with that, and trying to integrate with one platform that we're using for the building is really where that kind of started, and it's really clunky.
It's a big cost savings, but it's also, if we don't have those hours exactly in there right, we're gonna have lots of problems later.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
I think that was the thought process behind it, and it just really didn't work out. So good.
Well, it made one person's job maybe easier, but the rest of us made it more difficult. So we were kind of sold a bill of goods, and I think we're gonna have more research into that. So the self-bagging ice machine for the 4th of July. So this was actually up at the very top, and I said a standalone ice machine is not going to take care of 4th of July. I don't know if you've seen how much beer and ice and everything goes out. We also sell bags of ice to all the vendors as well that are out on Joe Stevenson Park as well. So there's no way ice machine is going to do that type of work. So this is one of these self-bagging, you pull up to it, you pay your money, and you get a bag of ice, and that's something that we would like, but maybe it's something where a little later down a couple of years later. So
Well, how many bags of ice can they produce in an hour?
Yeah.
A lot.
I think they had like,
Yeah.
I don't know how many hundred that we sold.
Oh, yeah.
300 is what we bought.
Yeah, 300 is what we bought. We still have a couple, but I don't think we have 100.
I think we sold at least 200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
I
200.
thought we'd use it all, but we didn't. Because it was a much.
Because we have used up 300 bags
Right,
in previous years.
year. This was a much smaller trailer than we had last year, and I was like, we're not gonna have enough ice, but people did.
They have something similar to this at the Sunny Downs on 151 when you got Canelo. You pull in where the storage is, a self-contained ice machine. At $40,000, we get something like that. The $5,000 is something more like what the senior center has,
Mhm.
where you have to self-bag it
Mhm.
there. So that's something we're kind of, for your consideration, and I don't know which way.
I like the idea of getting one started.
The ice trailer, well,
Ice business.
now that we found somebody that
They
would
make
bring
a lot of
ice
ice per hour.
Yeah, it
We
took a
couldn't-
long
we had-
time to even
because we couldn't get.
It depends on,
ice vendor.
it depends on how
It was
big the
weeks
machine
of
is
Dustin
too.
How much
calling
money you spend
around
on it.
and not
Yeah,
getting
but
many
they
phone
make
calls
a
back,
lot of ice
and
per hour.
finally got this vendor to be able to.
The guy we had in the past was very unreliable, and last year, or the year before last, he was like 2-3 hours late, and people needed ice. So
This year he would have called back.
Yep.
Yeah, he didn't.
he didn't even call us back, so we got somebody out of Pagosa, he came, he was great. But this might be something that's, you know, easier, less stress on them trying to find a vendor, and the people can put their money in, get their ice and do their thing. We're not.
So, one of these machines can make up to 50 to well over 1,200 pounds of ice per day.
Say that again, 52 what?
50 to 1,200 pounds of ice per day.
And the one thing about it, this is something that brings in revenue. It may pay, it may take 10 or 15 years to pay for it, but you're actually charging for a bag of ice. So, you know, even if you're going to have a picnic at Joe Stevenson Park, has nothing to do with the other events going on, you can still buy a bag of ice, you know, when you're there.
Yeah, it'll be used all the summer months.
So do we need two ice machines or would one?
It would be one.
It would be
One or
one.
the other, I mean,
Okay, good. I thought, well,
Well, I
that's
mean, if-
overkill on ice.
The
Got it.
first one is just for concessions.
Okay.
It would not be substantial for 4th of July.
Yeah.
It
It needs,
But the ice machine could work for,
would- yes.
got it, okay, all right, good.
How much did 200 bags of ice cost?
You're charged $3 for a bag of ice, and you,
Do something and we charge 3.
it doesn't,
Mark it up much.
yeah.
Oh,
You could have marked it up more. The thing is that, you know, it's just water.
right.
That's our only operating cost, so obviously electricity, but,
Well, we don't want our vendors to feel gouged, you know, I mean, it needs to pay for itself for sure, but in real terms.
I'm sure in the wintertime, you could just, you know, drain it and winterize it and
Yeah, as long as we don't forget that.
Well, you know, not to be devil's advocate either. I just don't know how much through traffic you're gonna get for the self-contained ice bagging machine that's in Joe Stevenson Park that you have to park on the street and walk to, walk back.
True.
Where the location, the one at 151, is actually really pull through with your boat and camper. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I mean, I'm not trying to shoot down the idea or whatever, just something to keep in mind. The location's really gonna sell that ice, and I'm not sure if that is the best location for ice sales machine in Bayfield. It's not gonna be like driving through the water salesman, where you're gonna get, you know what I mean? That turnaround business, you're gonna have to actually walk this thing, depending on the location and the
Yeah.
placement of it, and so I don't know if you're gonna get the revenue that might be projected from the location.
Is there space to put it next to the Waterman?
you want it next to the park.
you want it closer to
Versus
Closer to
40,
the-
right?
I'm just thinking about making it pay for itself and then putting money in the pocket.
So this can definitely be moved to 2027 or 2028. I don't think there's, Dustin was not aware that we did this to his budget.
Well, then you did it when I'm a kid.
Very
There you
But
go.
we want him to have a
He
vacation.
wanted a voice, he should have been here.
Yep.
Yeah, good point.
It seems a little frivolous at the moment.
Yep.
To consider it, $900 versus $40,000. $900 that we get reimbursed because we charge the consumer versus $40,000.
Yeah. So we'll go back to the police department, which is on page 3.
I don't know yet.
So the green solid boxes are what we have done in 2024. And then they're looking at purchasing 2 more vehicles to replace 2 aging vehicles in 2025. So you may remember he's buying this from the Kansas State Highway Department at a much lower cost because they are used. And then, of course, it costs some money to decal them and some other things, but the office equipment, 3 desks, 3 chairs, they're just expanding their patrol room and just need a couple extra desks and chairs. I think that the $5,000 is a little high. Before we had computers in there. Computers currently right now, we lease through DataSafe, and we paid them off, I think a year and a half ago for the ones we currently have. And now when we buy them, it's in a different part of the budget, so more in operating. The 4 Stalker radio units, this is to purchase 4 more in order to have all vehicles with updated radar equipment, so it's $13,500. Patrol pistol lights, optics for all officers. This would take care of covering with them all. I don't really know what this is, but it's $5,500.
The optics are pre-Gulf War.
Oh, the current ones
The current ones that we
are
have
pre-Gulf War, okay.
pre-Gulf War, so that gives you an idea of the age.
You need your optics when you're clearing a building. It's like a flashlight in your gun, basically. You have your lights and then your optic. Instead of just having an iron sight, you have an actual optic in your gun. It's needed.
It's for accuracy too.
And for accuracy.
Yeah.
They don't-
For safety.
Make sure what we're shooting. Yes. Well, it
So-
makes it easier to zero in, especially in emergencies.
So the AR rifles, 5 up-to-date or current inventory. So from what I understand, they have a different rifles. And so their goal is to get 5 to basically make sure that they're all the same. And he's got 2 years, one phase in 2025 and another phase in 2026. And then body cameras, we've already purchased. So all we're doing is paying maintenance on those now. Utility is the cameras in their vehicles. This is to purchase the 2 for the 2 vehicles that we're going to purchase at the very top because those older vehicles did not get outfitted with the utility system. And very honestly, that utility system has been pretty awesome, and Spillman together. I'm impressed with the reports that are coming out of there. So, and wellness equipment for the training room in the Bayfield Police Department. I've never been in favor of having a wellness or equipment room in a room where we still need space, storage space for people, for storage and for people. But, you know, I'm sure the chief will justify this, so.
And wellness equipment in this instance is
Like
Them in
is
shape.
fitness.
Fitness equipment.
fitness equipment.
Fitness. Mhm.
Right now, they're bringing their own stuff in.
It is, we use the high school in Ignacio, and that was awesome. We were able to use that. I know we have a wellness benefit for everybody, for officers. It's nice to have somewhere where you're not running into people that you tell with, or you can just go in there and do your workout and not have a bunch of people around. So I can see like these before.
That's what I needed, somebody else. That's why we do this. So I'm gonna kind of take you to the back page so you can see the general fund all together. The very last page is page 17. So you'll see in 2025, we have basically a $2.8 million in capital improvements. Some of that, a lot of that, most of that will be grants through the EPC, which is the Energy Performance Contract. And then some of that can come out of capital improvement. The capital improvement revenue was about $700,000. That's what we estimated, capital improvement. And then there's also a conservation trust fund that can cover some of the shades for the playgrounds. So this isn't really bad. If we get that $40,000 out of there for this automatic ice machine, you know, that's going to start to reduce things. And you know, there's other things that we could probably get a little more specifics on. I kind of think we're at a point in the general fund. Would like to know if there's really something you just really feel that we either you like, don't like, need to modify, move to another year.
Just out of curiosity, where's he gonna put that zircon for his storage since he cleaned out that room?
It's at Public Works.
Yeah, the zircon's set up.
And where is it?
You know where the lean-to is on the west side of the parking lot? We extended that parking lot pad and it's sitting right there.
Oh, it's sitting right there.
On the north side, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And we issued a building permit.
That's what I like to hear.
Follow the rules.
Follow the rules.
No favors for me.
Oh,
I have a question. On the street fund, we have the Bayfield East signal construction, and then we also have the signalized intersection.
That's what I was deleting right now.
Okay, is that a boo-boo? Is that a $3 million boo-boo? Okay, I'm happy that that's a boo-boo. I was like, why do we have two of those?
Should only be one line item.
And is it only the 3.3 one? We want to be a 3 signal town, is that what it is?
Gonna go
Okay.
from 1 to 3.
The even 3 mil one? Okay,
3 mil, I'm gonna remove it.
okay. Thank you. So that puts that number to 4.546213. And that changes our totals by 3 million. So this will be 8,791,104.
I didn't see that number, but I was wondering why that one was 11 and the rest of them were lower.
Yeah, they doubled it by accident. I mean, it's still a lot, but that's because we have a couple really large projects on there. So you would take 1.5 off of that
No.
total amount? Or is that in addition to the 3.3?
yeah.
Okay.
So me and Nicole have had these discussions, so I want to know the total amount of expenditures. Because keep in mind, we have to comply with Tabor. So the complete amount for the expenditures has to be in your capital improvements, has to be in your operating. If revenue reduces the overall cost, it needs to be in revenue. So,
Understandable. We keep it separate, but we can keep it in our little
Yeah, you gotta-
noggins
yeah.
that there's 1.5 million off that
Yeah.
because we do have a grant.
yeah.
So
So general fund looks great.
That's, I mean, with the projects we have, I mean,
So we need the ice machine?
Except for the ice machine.
Go get it.
Everything we just went through, what do you want to mark off?
I'm sorry, the ice machine's a no-go for me.
The ice machine, just, we just moved
Sorry,
it to
that's
the.
just really far
Do you
out
want to
there.
put it
I don't know,
out?
the one that the
I would
Yeah,
just
I
put
mean,
it,
I don't see why we can't
Sure.
revisit it in a
Yeah.
couple of years, you know,
I
maybe.
put it in
We'll put it in your
2008.
parking lot.
2028, yeah, sorry.
You living in the past there.
Going the wrong way.
It'd be an easy spot to go in, turn around, load up, and get out.
Like Brenda's idea of putting it with the water system.
Do what?
I don't hate
Excuse me?
Drive in, you could get ice and then water, so like either one, we're just turning it off and on seasonally.
True, but not today.
But that was a good idea.
Yeah.
So, like,
In his parking lot.
Oh, yeah, it should go in your parking lot.
Yeah, I gotta get some of the contractors out.
Okay, so that's 2026, so these are 2020. So I don't think those are out of,
How much time do the park, you're asking for additional office space, so how much time do they spend out doing things compared to working on a workstation?
During our spring and summer months, mostly is outdoors.
Yeah,
In the winter and fall, when we're slowing down, all of our search training, I don't know how many hours we spend on that, but it's
Probably like
quite a bit.
22, 25. And then it's all digital work orders now too, so we're going paperless. So what we're finding, you're gonna see that's gonna be a reoccurring theme that's gonna come up there, you're gonna see office space, office space, office space. We don't have enough seats for butts. So with the way we're currently switching to a paperless system, we actually need to have some place for people to complete those work orders, so. In our line of work, if we don't write it down, it didn't happen. So they'll ask us to document a lot of that stuff, as well as search that and stuff that goes into. So a lot of those work orders that come out kind of seems a little bit redundant, but we have to send those work orders out, we have to document, and we have to prove that we've actually had a sewer management system, park inspections for safety, and all those other things that go back into keeping our rates low. So that's where you're seeing this office space come up, as we go to more of a digital platform. We have to make appropriate accommodations for people to be able to complete those reporting documents in a digital form.
So every Monday I email them out a list of work orders, that they're supposed to do, they're open, they go through them, they read what they gotta do, they go perform the work, they come back to the shop and they close it out. And that's all through email. We really, it's a, web-based, app.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
you have to be in a place where there's
mm-hmm.
network. So they gotta do that in the office. They can phone, email, but they can't go in and, close it out or, do anything for that. So they gotta do that in the office. During the spring and the summer, that's mainly what they're using the computer for, is their work orders, and then just work emails. So that, it's not a lot, but it would be nice for them to have their own desk and have their own space to do that.
Yeah, a desk or some kind of flex space, maybe not in addition to the building, or,
If you ever wanna come and look at what we've got going on at the shop, you're more than welcome, but it's right in the middle of, it's right next to our lift station where we work on our vehicles.
Mhm.
It's also kind of a safety issue.
So Katie, I think for myself, when I look at these totals, it's hard for me to assess, because I almost feel like within this planning document, I could have used sort of like the last 5 years of year-to-year costs versus funding with inflation figured in. So I'm not sure, where does this 2.6 fit in the big scheme of things? I mean, is this a realistic number? Is this an unrealistic number? Is this just a wish list and then
Yes.
we say, go shop somewhere else?
It kind of is a wish list.
Yeah.
That's where they start with, like, kind of what they want, what they would like to do.
Sure.
And then we kind of veto anything that we think is frivolous or really far out there.
Gotcha.
And then they usually come back and we get the rest. It's a progressive
I understand
thing.
that.
So the
I
re-
just don't understand where the 2.6, I have nothing relative to it to understand.
So looking past years is not gonna help you understand 2025. The reason that we do capital improvements completely different than operations, operations has a lot of, we will go out and get quotes for this thing that we want, that we didn't want last year, that we didn't want the year before. So you can't go, that's something that's just, it's very unique. Capital improvement cost is very unique to what we're gonna do in 2025, and just like what we did in 2024. It's very, very unique subject, and that's why we're spending some time on that. The thing is if we're gonna spend this, this work session on capital improvements on something you feel an operation does not need, like the ice machine, then yeah, we move it, and those are reasons. So, looking back at capital improvements for every year is gonna be something completely different. We're doing nutrient removal that we may not need to do for the next 20 years. We did something different for water, building a tank, and maybe, 10 years ago that we won't do until two or 3 years from now when we actually have population. So capital improvements does not have a inflationary aspect. It doesn't have a, because they're getting quotes of what it's gonna cost currently. Somebody's gonna give them a quote today, what it may
Right,
cost.
but we are experiencing inflation. So, a car that the town would have bought 5 years ago.
But that's why we get quotes.
Yeah, no, I understand why you get quotes, but it is relative in the fact that, we should be monitoring the costs that are growing for the town over time, within reason, right?
So if we were buying the same F-150 every
Right,
year,
right.
that's something that we would look at as it changes over time.
Well, it's just a category of vehicles, so I understand that. I fully understand that. It's just difficult for me to understand where this 2.6
It's
fits in.
coming from totaling all of these together.
No, I understand that. I guess I'm not speaking clearly. I guess I need to understand how realistic is this number in what we have available to act on? Does that get a little bit
It's as
clearer?
realistic as we can get today. And by the time we purchase, we do the ground pumps at the senior center, it may go from 1.4 to 1.6. But that's when you actually go out to bid. That's when you actually find out what it's gonna cost. We always hope that the engineer is the high bidder, and the contractor comes in, at what we can afford. So if we actually got, the only way to get a realistic amount is actually when we actually go out to bid.
So let me move past that. So if we all say, yeah, this all looks great, we've got nothing to take off here except for the ice machine, then we're gonna try to figure out how we're gonna pay for this, is pretty much what you're telling me.
So that's where the revenue comes in. So we just talked about the EPC could entirely cover 100% of that cost.
Right.
And that's where I've gotten into where a board says, hey, this is gonna be a conditional budgetary for 2025. And I don't want, to even consider going forward until we have more exact figures. Maybe it's February or March of 2025. That is certainly reasonable. But that's all we can do is get as close as we can. Some of these numbers that you see out in 2027, 2028, they're gonna be like, well, the bench at Speedway could be about $60,000, but we have to go through CDOT permits. We probably have to go through all the federal highway requirements. So, a bench could cost $2,000, but we kind of understand it's going to be a lot more than that just to get a sidewalk to it, considering that they put flowers up around it. How are we going to clear that out? Where are people going to walk? Is it going to be handicap accessible? So all those things go into it, but it's still just a good guess to where we're at.
Speaking of that bench, does it have to be on that corner where CDOT is, or couldn't?
That's where they want it. He's been raising money, a lot
Yeah,
less
you don't
now.
raise $60,000 though.
Well, all I can say is currently, right now, we're engineering that. If he wants it in a different place, I mean, I can certainly call him and say that, would you consider a different location?
I mean,
We
still right
have, we
in
have a
that
couple
area,
memorial
but-
benches out here in the park that the family paid for a bench to have the name of the
Right.
deceased on. It's, $2,000, and we didn't pay anything for it.
Right.
They reimburse us 100%. So, it's one of those difficult conversations. If you say, no, we're not gonna spend $60,000, then I have to go back and tell him, I'm sorry, we're not gonna spend this money on it. And, do you have another option? And he still has the right to come talk to you directly.
Well, I don't want to turn it down. I just kind of think maybe the placement, if they do it where it's not CDOT. I mean, that puts it a little out of our control in essence when it's CDOT, because they have to make that choice and we have to get permits from them and everything like that, versus if it's land that's actually town.
Well, it's actually the town property, it just happens to be CDOT right-of-way, and
Right.
you're under their regulations, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's semantics, but you get where I'm going with that. I mean, like, if, I would just maybe ask him if he would consider that because of the cost.
Well, it would have to be a decision by the board to remove that $60,000 and maybe give him a budget. And I know that's a tough place to be in, but that's not necessarily, and I will do the tough job of having that conversation with him, but it's hard to have that with him not knowing where you want to go.
Do we have any idea of how much he has raised?
So from just his estimates that he could pay for a bench and some of the conversations they've had, I think he's got close to $7,000. But, I don't know. These are always touchy situations.
I get it, you don't wanna ask
Yeah.
him, it's kind of a gray area on the whole.
Yeah.
I can't imagine somebody just hanging out there on the corner of Speedway, for a bench.
Well, that's why they put flowers out there and
Yeah.
teddy bears and,
Yeah, I remember.
There is currently a walk path across the corner and comes down, terminates in the driveway of Speedway.
It would be nice to,
Pick up on the south
yeah.
side, come back around and put people on the bike path or the walk path for the footway. So it is a connection point for pedestrian access. When you look at it, makes sense. It wouldn't look out of place if it was in there. You just have a house proper, what we call like a sanctuary with a bench. You could sit, so.
Well, and honestly, all the pedestrian traffic now takes off from the parkway and cuts through the gas station, which
Yeah, well, and then they
is
get-
probably not a good situation either.
Yeah. So, I mean, that sidewalk, would
It would be a
add
good
connectivity
connection.
to pedestrian access for the town.
Mm-hmm.
I
I'd
mean,
like-
I feel for the situation. I mean, it's terrible what happened, but $60,000 is a lot of money, of town people's money.
I understand that. The thing is that when he first suggested it, we saw the realistic connection. There's no sidewalk there. You have to get
Oh.
either on the street or in the rocks or walk through speedways, actually through the gas station to really connect. So we saw it as maybe a good prospect for the town to participate with that cost.
So, because there'd be connectivity and it's in the CDOT right away, is there a way you get like a grant from them or some help from them in that situation because it would be safer pedestrian crossing in there right away? For covering part of like the sidewalk part,
We've
not
got
the
to finish, we've got to finish that SUP.
Yeah,
I'm thinking we get that done and they're not gonna consider us for anything until we get that done. We've got to the bottom of their patience with this process.
I'd like to see the composting toilet in Little Pine Park moved up to next year. I know for 2 years that I've been here that it was on the budget and then it disappeared because we didn't have any services out there, but that park gets used a lot.
Yeah, it does.
Any kind of visitors to Bayfield are gonna pull over in there if there's a bathroom or if there's not, but there's just so many people over there for not having a facility or a plan for a facility, a really legitimate, no problems, nobody's gonna tip it over facility, especially with all, I mean, we have kids, we have grandparents. I think it's critical that we move that up.
So move 100,000 to 2025?
Yes. I don't know what we take off.
Well,
Well, we may not have to, who knows?
Maybe the Eagle Park.
Who's got one?
Oh, you have one?
I have one. $100,000 for 2 police cars. I understand changing out the 2-wheel drive and taking half that, and then $3,000 in repair. That's not really asking a whole lot, but I don't see where $100,000 needs to be allocated when he just got last year too. So I would ask to move some of that money.
Yeah, what are we up to? Because we got a lot of cars.
Well, we're.
Did we get 2 or 4?
2.
2?
You have
That-
8 officers.
Yeah, we have 8 officers. So we have vehicles that are, I'm sorry, I don't know the age right off the top of my head, but they're starting to fail. And we don't want to put a camera and utility in these vehicles that aren't, even if you moved it to 2026.
But we're buying them so that we're able to rotate.
Right,
when we'll
rotate
buy
out,
'em
yeah.
again. Okay.
I would like to hear from
I know, we like to hear
Chief
from
of-
Chief.
on that
yeah.
one, to be totally honest, just to get the right age
Yeah.
of the vehicles and more information.
Yeah, and we can bring that, it just, he knows the vehicle ages.
We did list 3 of the old cars that were
Oh, good.
decommissioned, I guess you'd say, stickers and lights and stuff. Those are on the auction site right now, so some revenue will be coming in from that as well. I can't say exactly what it is, it's a 30-day auction,
Yeah.
but the last ones that we put on there, we saw anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 a piece for them. So,
Well, and the going rate for cars now, especially the kind of cars that they would need to drive, is probably about 80,000, taking it right off the lot. So that would be 160,000. So in truth, he's doing his best
Yeah, he's
to
cutting
get
the
us
cost.
quality vehicles at a reduced cost. And I think when you're putting your officers possibly in harm's way because their cars break down on them or something like that, they need to have dependable cars. To me, that's, I don't know, that's kind of a no-brainer to me. But I understand Matt's concern. But I think that these things are aging out, and you can get nickeled and dimed, and then they don't function.
I gotta give Chief kudos for getting us 2 for the price of 1, because really, prior to these last 2 vehicles that were purchased this year, we were paying double the cost for all the vehicles. And the vehicles he's getting are really nice. Oh, there he is.
There he is! We were talking about you. Were your ears ringing?
A lot of things have been ringing tonight.
Yeah.
I bet.
So we're currently right now talking about removing the 2 vehicles.
Okay.
We just want more
And
information.
so
We're not talking about
I think
it.
maybe you can talk about the 2 vehicles that we're gonna replace.
Okay, the 2 vehicles we currently have, that they're still up there, we don't use them really. One's a 2000, we got a bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah.
2016 Dodge Charger, all-wheel drive, but it needs over $3,000 in repairs, so we kind of mothballed it and just stuck it up there so we don't have to fix it. The other one's a 2014 Dodge Charger, it's 2-wheel drive, and we can't use it all year round. So I did not want to put a lot of extra camera equipment and everything like that because it's only in use partially. So those are the last 2 vehicles that we have in our inventory that we need to replace for a couple years. After those were replaced, everything we have except for one is 2021 and newer, and we'll be pretty good. We got a new maintenance program in, we got a lot of things going with them right now, that they're running very well. The vehicle program is running very well. Matt's doing a tremendous job being a fleet manager for us, Matt Gallegos, Officer Gallegos. So we've put in a system to make sure our vehicles are gonna start lasting, and they're gonna be functional. But these are the last two older vehicles that we don't have any equipment in for Senate Bill 217, because we didn't wanna put stuff in vehicles we knew we were gonna have to get rid of. So we were saving money on that aspect of it.
What if we split it? I mean, I know, what if we split it and move the 100,000 to 50,000 and put 50,000 in 2006? Instead of buying two vehicles in a year,
2000.
Just do
or
one.
2026, not 2006, my bad. But just do one vehicle and then one vehicle in 2026 instead of buy, I know, like, I understand we need both of them. But I was just kind of talking to you down there.
No, I would be okay with that. I would be even putting the $3,000 into that. That was probably the old Marshall's car, the black Charger that you have stored up
That's
there.
actually being,
So,
it's on the auction site now.
Okay, so then I'm okay with getting rid of the two-wheel drive, but I'd split it up. I just think we could save some cash there.
Then it's not just no vehicle, but at least one and then push it to the next year.
Having watched them do the musical chairs, only calling it musical cars, I'm still for both of them for this year.
Well, and I'd like to know, Chief, what's the implication? I mean, what is, the implication if we don't do both of them? What kind of position does that put your department and your vehicles in?
Honestly, even putting $3,000 into the one vehicle, I don't know how long it's gonna last, because it is an older vehicle, and it did have a lot of, that, if I showed you the pictures of it, the door panels are all screwed in because they keep falling off. We got dashboard damage. It's got an antiquated radar system, and we can't use it. It has no camera system. So it doesn't allow us to really comply with Senate Bill 217. And the 2014 two-wheel drive, we didn't do anything to because we knew we couldn't use it all year round. And we kind of use it as a static car. And what we do is we put it out like in school zones and stuff right now to hopefully slow down people. But we can only use it a couple months of the year when we're doing that. But if we get one, we'll have that for the extra. It won't be an extra because if we hire someone, that car will get filled right away. We just wouldn't have a spare car to go to if anybody's vehicle went down.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, most of the items, the wish list items on this report seem really reasonable to me, except for, and I realize that you've pushed it out, is probably the expansion of the parking lot. I think that can.
which, could you get a page, because we've got a lot of
Sure.
parking lots
So
in
we're
here.
jumping around.
It
everywhere.
is page 1, and it is the number 3 item, town hall storage and parking expansion. And I realize that that's pushed out to 2026, but that's a lot of money to do that, so, I don't know.
So you want to push it out to 2027 or 2028?
Yeah, because I think we've got bigger fish to fry that we could use that kind of money for.
So I'll just put it 2028. Any
Yeah.
opposition to that?
I don't really think it matters, just because, I mean, you'd be revisiting.
We're
it
gonna
next
redo
year
this again
anyway,
next
so
year.
you can move it out then. I
Yeah.
mean,
I agree.
I really am not looking at 2026 stuff.
And then also, the equipment, the exercise wellness equipment, I think that's a non-necessity. And then,
I would agree with that.
and then the ice machine. I feel like those are just kind of, they're non-necessities, and they're not saving us money. So anyways, that's what I think about that.
So that would be 45,000 towards the composting toilet between those two things. We're halfway there.
Composting toilet
Would
for
anybody be
$100,000.
willing to maybe possibly put, oh, that's already out, never mind. possibly the Gosney Park Playground shade structure. Could we trade that 50,000 there for the composting toilet?
So part of that is saving that playground for, if you can shade it, you're gonna preserve it longer and let it have a more useful life. And the sun does a lot of damage, but, you know, that's,
How old is that equipment now? And what is its life expectancy? It's,
Just got the site plan on it whenever I sent to get the quotes, so I haven't really looked at it, but I think that was when Becky was here, like 2010. It is in very good shape. I feel like priority, as far as what's up, you know, on the ladder, preserving that, and then also the liability of the town. There's signage in all of our parks that says, hey, this equipment is hot. The signage does not totally waive a lawsuit. It helps, but keeping that in mind and then just preserving, you know, $130,000, $150,000 piece of
Investment.
playground equipment to last, you know, more than 30 years would be great. So I'm right there with you with a compost toilet, but I feel like priority, you know,
what about
there's
the,
no liability with not having a quote. So that's
not,
one thing.
not right away?
Right. I agree.
Okay, that's the problem.
But I don't want to, I think the shade structures are
Well,
Okay.
and after doing the ice cream social over there, the board social, it's serving families in our community that need a place for their kids to go. And having it within walking distance for a lot of these people that may have one car and whatnot, I think having resources for young families that are financially strapped, you know, this is a great benefit. So I would just add that. Sorry, Alexis.
Okay, so how about the construction at the Parks shop? Is there some way that, ooh, you know, is there some kind of person, like a California closet person, that could come in and look at any way to get in? Because I understand that there's more and more, you know, you need a workstation, there's more and more of that going on. But there's also workstations now that they're standing, that they can be folded, that they can be pulled out or
I would
configured different ways. And they're not, the other thing that I would say about that is that they are Parks and Rec employees. And so, yes, that might take maybe 2 hours of the day, which you're looking at 25%. And we're putting in this for that amount of time.
so I think you really need to see that office to
Right, right.
understand that it's not, you know, I think Mark would do anything to have any one of these offices here down there, but that's not what he has. I mean, it's a kitchen, it's a rest stop, it's a everything. So, you know, how they get anything done, the only way they could do it is take out a bathroom or put a desk in a bathroom or a standing desk in a bathroom. So, I mean, I think it is very, very difficult. It's not necessarily even really a work office.
Well,
And everybody, go ahead.
That's
fine. Okay.
Well, and I think Mark is doing everything that he can by looking at the existing standing structures and saying, how do we expand this at the lowest cost possible? And it reads to me like it isn't just workstations for them, it's also a place to store things and have things more secure, more safe. So, you know, I feel like you've done your best in trying to expand that working space, that people can, you know, do what they've got to do and have extra storage to boot, so.
All right, let's start over. Let's start on page 1.
Don't leave
I
page
mean,
one.
we're bouncing
I
from
know.
page to page to page, and I'm like, I
Everybody's
don't know where
bouncing
we're
all
at.
over.
Right.
Let's start on page 1. And does anybody see any cuts on there that you would like to make?
I have a question on page 1. I know we've got the stone security. What are the chances that they would let us kind of like do it in steps? Or will
We
they
can do
not?
it in
Becau-
steps.
Can we do it in
Yeah.
steps? Because I was thinking that if we could do it more in steps and maybe split it up between 2 years, like if we did it late in the year on 2025 and it went over to 2026, then maybe we could budget like half in there and half,
The first step would have to be town hall, because I think that's where the server's
obviously.
going.
Yeah,
And
obviously.
that controls the whole system, whether it's at the public works, water, senior center. The brains of the whole system could be here in our server room. And outside of that, we can phase it in. And just like the Joe Stevenson Park one, it's built for expansion. So as Joe Stevenson Park expands, so can the camera system accommodate
Nice.
that area.
Yeah, if we could do that on the budget and show that in the budget, maybe, if everybody thinks that's a good
So
idea.
if we move the $12,591 to 2026, that would be the senior center. And I'm also looking on page 4, I'm sorry, we're not gonna stay in consecutive pages, but move 29,000 from the parks, because I think if Mark can answer this, he'd probably prefer an office over a security
I would agree with
camera.
that too, yeah. What do you guys think?
I like
Yeah.
that.
Good work.
So that's 20, that's 33, 32, 33.
That's like 42 grand to move to 26.
With the past pioneers and the sculpture, can we put that in unknown until we actually have a more definitive price?
My guess
Or-
is that $15,000 is only gonna get you a rendition of what you want. So by the time we actually get to a sculpture, I'm thinking you're looking at a lot more money. And that's why, and we have a rendition, then we would actually have something to go for grants for,
Okay.
if we could find them.
Anything else on page 1?
No,
I think that's good.
I think we're good.
Page 2,
Thank you for doing it that way.
I'm trying.
My
Page
brain
2,
was
all
starting to
the,
bleed on it.
Yeah, my head.
all the EPC is conditional on funding.
It's all, we're applying for funding.
Right.
And that's all that-
You approving the EPC, so if you, if, once the audit's done and you decide you don't wanna move forward, then all that comes off.
Okay.
But if you wanna move forward, that stays on there, but knowing that we might actually even possibly get 100% of it funded.
Look at her eyes like it. Okay.
That would be nice.
And then we can wait to
There's a
approve
lot
it
of
on
energy,
when we see
grants out
what
right
kind of
now,
grants come in? Or do we have to approve it before we see any of the grants?
No, we're hoping that we have the, we know if we receive grants before we bring you final audit.
Okay.
But the budget still has to be adopted.
Yeah.
We still have to add
yeah.
it in
Okay.
there, otherwise we can't.
How much,
Again, you ultimately will be approving the EPC, so even if it's on the CIP, again, if you decide you don't wanna move forward with it once you say the audit, then it just comes off the CIP, but we have to start thinking ahead of time.
Right.
how much savings are we truly getting out of the thermal heating?
He provided that in that PowerPoint, I don't have it in front of me.
I
but
can't remember.
I can get that to you.
Because that, I'm okay with the rest of it. I just think that,
1.5 million. is
I think
lot
that's a
of
little
dollars.
ridiculous. And I think it's over the edge, and I really don't think we need that type of heating system for the senior center. And the rest of it, I'm okay with.
I think if we could get a grant for it, why not?
Yes.
But
I would
if we
agree.
can't get a grant for it, like, no,
Then then it goes
Yeah.
off.
because it's frivolous. I agree 100%. But
Right,
if it
right
has a
now,
grant for
we
it, why
have
not?
a
I guess it
proposal.
depends on what the grant would say, but I'd still have a hard time voting for it.
Nicole,
That's where I'm at.
with that heat pump system, that would also help with the
I'd rather
consumption
get
of
to
the
our
solar
part of the town.
versus electrical that we looked at today in that meeting, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, the question, I was seeing if I had it on here, pull up, but, so I'll have to email you back. But the question came up today,
Mhm.
And are we really seeing, is it really working? And the answer is yes. The engineers from McKinstry have investigated, they've been working with LPA, and they've determined it works, but it's not a lot of solar, so it doesn't reduce the, it doesn't cancel out the usage very much, and that's why we don't see it. But there are some spikes in certain months where we're seeing more benefit from the solar than the usage, and those are probably the months, shoulder season, the months that are more comfortable. But, so what Josh is saying is the heat pump system will help control that rest of that energy cost that we're not really seeing from the current solar that we were hoping. We can add more solar, there's a little bit more space on that south side of the roof, so that we can get the benefits of solar up there, but right now, it's working, but it's not providing a huge benefit, and they have a chart that shows what. Yeah, they have a chart that just shows like the usage of the building's energy versus what the solar brings in. So, again, I'll just re-forward you all, that PowerPoint, and I'll point you to the right pages that shows the solar, but also shows the energy savings from each of these things, the lighting, you'll see it all, because they've kind of projected out what they believe those savings would be each year.
Well, that solar's pretty old too. I mean, how efficient is it?
I don't know, but it is working.
It's doing
I
what
think
it's
that was
supposed
the
to.
biggest question of ours is it
'Cause
actually working, but it doesn't do.
They
what
told
we
us when they
want.
put that in that it was gonna need to be replaced in 20 years.
Well,
We're
so
getting close to
What
that.
I found, I did research, and when they put it in, it actually had to get fixed, like, within the first 5 years that it was in. So it's already had some maintenance into it, that first 5 years, and I found, like, the invoice and all of that when I was doing some research, when it was put in. So, I don't know if they had to replace new panels, and therefore it's newer than the original ones, but it was Shaw Solar, they had to come back and redo it, and we paid again for that. So, but again, I'll send you the PowerPoint, I don't have it memorized, so I can't find it on the.
And I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think Pagosa has successfully installed geothermal to offset their administrative building for Archuleta County. It would be interesting to know, how beneficial that is. And again, if it's too much for the senior center, it'd be better if we could utilize that for many buildings. But again, if we don't have to pay for it, but there's a reward in cost savings and then also payback,
And that goes
why not?
back to what Trustee Snook said, which is, we're gonna try and get all the grants and get awarded the grants and all that before we give you the final package. But because that's gonna be later, we just have to start
Sure.
plugging these numbers in, knowing that this could change.
They could
and
come out.
We could have 100% of it funded through
Gotcha.
grants. We don't know that yet.
I'd like to wait and see before moving any of those EPC items.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
not
no,
doing
I'm
them
okay with
before.
that.
Was, are you, okay?
Yeah, I'm okay
I'd like
with
to
it.
see the grant piece first and then like
Yeah.
make decisions at
Yeah,
that point.
no, I'm fine with it.
Okay,
I'm
so
just
we
like
can-
not really fond of that whole idea, cause I don't know.
It does seem a little frivolous, but I mean, if they pay 100% and it saves money and it keeps the place warm. I
It
kinda-
actually keeps it comfortable. Geothermal is a very
Right.
comfortable cooling and heating
Right, a
versus.
little comfortable with
yeah.
it.
Well, it would help
It
with
doesn't
the
take
fan
much
units
around.
in there turning on and off and making the pilot light turn on to light the gas
Yep.
and keep it heating. You wouldn't constantly have
It's a
mechanics turning
year-round
on and off.
consistent temperature.
Yeah.
The same temperature here, cool or hot.
I'd like to keep our seniors comfortable.
Josh, with the removing the rocks and the mulch in, rocks out, mulch in, is that something that you could do half of that this year and half of that next year, or do you feel like it needs to be?
Not that cool.
Okay.
Not that
You'd rather do.
A little warm.
When you walk in by a store and you see a really cute
You could put some in 2025 and do another half in 2026. Or is that crunch numbers and change out how they work out.
Sometimes mobilization is what you pay for twice.
Yeah.
Those are the only things that,
And you said you were gonna try to hopefully use a contractor for that.
okay, there's 50,000.
Which one is that?
The rocks in mulch, or rocks out to
To not
mulch
do
in?
it?
30,000, yeah.
So the south and the southeast side of Town Hall irrigation, that's not part of that smart irrigation water savings with the E EPC?
No, it's the turf.
Yeah, so the smart is just actually the meter.
Oh,
Or
okay.
the controller that controls, so it's different than actually the irrigation itself.
What was the purpose of the rock out mulching?
We just can't get the weeds. The weeds
Oh,
are
the
just
weed
taking
control.
over. Elm seeds are
So are we
Yeah.
saying we're not gonna do that then?
just half and half.
Half and half.
Half in
Okay.
2025 and half in
Sure.
2026.
Sorry.
Anything else on page 2?
No.
Page 3? think
Only
we-
the wellness equipment.
Wellness, yeah.
Take that out,
What's that?
the wellness equipment
Yeah.
on page 3. But everything else looks
Yeah, I would-
necessary to me.
Same to me.
Page 4?
That was the one we moved the two and highlighted in green to next year.
The 19 and the 10,
Yeah,
and they're moved to 2026.
yeah.
So the only thing on page 4 is possibly the equipment vendor might have a grant application to cover some of that for the skate park. Okay, so we might have some money not necessarily committed there.
I think that would be probably something that I would have to track with myself, but I'll check with those things if I have the time to do that. I obviously will, but I think that would be more for the park master plan that they would help for a small $52,000 project. Something they're gonna do.
So how, $30,000 for bear-proof trash cans, how many trash cans are we putting in?
That is something that I
Seems like a lot of money.
Right, and this wasn't, this is something that's been carried over from what we've been doing in the past. Right now, we currently have swapped out all the bear-proof trash cans, so they're all current, but we do wanna add more, but I don't think we need to add 4 every year, so that's something that I would definitely be okay with changing. 5 a year.
They cost about, what, $1,000 each, or 1,200?
1,200.
$100 a piece.
So maybe like 2 a year.
That would probably
So change those to 2,400.
Anything for that office space, right? I said anything for that office space, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's not budging on that.
Well, it
So
would
we
cost
need
us
some
a
more
lot-
on page 4.
Okay, so and on
Well, we
the
did-
top, and on the topsoil
We did move both
composting
of
and holding
those
bin, so,
over there.
okay, so you're gonna build the bins. Where does the compost and the soil come from? You still have to buy that.
That's included in that, yeah. So we would buy the, Phoenix Recycling, you can buy 30 yards of recycled construction material, for $300, which is really cheap for that much mulch. And then just, screened, soil from like C&J gravel to add to that and let it compost through the winter. The wall would be kinda like what they're using at, Tractor Supply, the
Mhm,
precast
mhm.
blocks. So you just basically crack a footer for them and stack them up on top. And what I'm thinking is just like a green farm gate in the front to keep the public out of it. The only thing that I haven't really, especially with like fireworks and stuff, I don't know where to put it yet.
If you buy in bulk, you get the reduction, is that what you're, why you wanna do that?
Yeah, I mean, I can buy the mulch and just regular filter, kinda like what they're digging out up here, on all the construction sites. That would be added to the mulch and composted. The wood is what holds the moisture. We try to add every year, but it's just not, it's not doing it. It's not amending the soil. And we have 8 my thought is to buy this, product for a cheap, price and do it ourselves, rather than spending 120 to 140 yards. Like when we resurfaced the soccer field, we had to go with the cheapest topsoil, the worst quality, because it was 30, 40 end dumps of dirt that we brought in there to do it, which could have been up to like $250,000 in soil. So we had to buy stuff that was $35 a yard, which it's not adequate. So this is my way of doing a lot for less.
Saving money in the long run. I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Okay, anything on 5 or 6, because there's not, like, much on either, there's nothing on either one.
Just moving the compost toilet up to next
Nothing-
year
Nothing on 5.
on page 6.
She just wants her compost.
I want my compost
I
toilet.
get my patrol cars, you have your compost.
Okay.
Are we close?
I think we're close.
Okay, so we're
Just-
on 7 then?
7, we're taking away the ice machine.
Ice machines moved to
No,
2028.
my brain is not working.
What
I
about
can't
the
read
floor
words.
cleaning machine? I know we need it, but it is the school district's building. I mean, there's really no way around that, right?
There really isn't. They're not
Well, we
gonna do
spend
it.
staff time trying to clean it.
Yeah, I know,
The old.
right.
I think I'm okay with,
What we have right now is ran by a power cord.
Mm-hmm.
One is a safety issue because it's got water coming out of it. Other than that, it's a pain because you're trying to move this machine around and drag a cord around in that gym. It's
Right.
huge. And it's not, we're having to maintenance it more than we would like to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
DJ calls me quite often. Go repair that thing. It's worked okay for the couple of years that we've had it. We invested like $600 into that thing. So it's definitely done its work, but to have something that's battery powered, you can just, unlike Walmart, they run out of
Well, and how many times would you have to call somebody in to actually clean it for us, and what would that
Oh,
cost
no.
in the long run? So I think that this is a pretty cheap investment to keep our Parks and Rec going, since it's really going gangbusters.
Sadie says as much usage as that place gets, but the floors are filled.
Yeah.
We have to sweep them and mop them, and it's a lot. So to have that machine to do it would be ideal.
Okay,
Okay.
and of course, take the $40,000 ice machine off.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
get rid of that.
Do we want to keep the other ice machine for concessions?
Yeah, I think that we should.
would be good.
That's all
We
Jeremy's
ready
fault,
to
the
move?
naysayer. Nope, it's
No,
very
it's a
important.
good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, but $900 versus $40,000 is what got me on that one.
Yeah.
we ready to
And
move on?
plus then making the bags.
Yes,
Yeah,
oh,
just-
I'm packing up.
Somebody has to maintain
that
it.
work?
Sewer?
and fill it.
How that would work on
So,
4th of July.
I want you to kind of think about the debt that we are paying every year. So I've spent a lot of today and yesterday looking at the debt that we have. So the utility bills that we currently pay, $29 of that every month is going to pay for debt. $4 for water, $25 for sewer. And $2 of the $25 is paid until 2036. 2033. I want you to kind of put a star in 2029, because in 2029, the big amount will be paid off entirely. So that will reduce the utility bill, because we won't have that debt anymore, by about $23. So if you think about, I know that we've been looking for rates across the southwest area and some of the other areas. And when I look at that, my question has been back to the town manager. I said, well, what's the debt? on that. And, you know, like Cortez doesn't have any debt. So when you look at their rates, well, they don't have a debt that they're paying off. So, you know, there's been a lot of talk about, well, let's go ahead and just, you know, pay off this debt. Well, Colorado Trust interest rates is over 5%. So the money that we have in our savings is 5%. However, these loans are at 2% or 3%. So, you know, in
3% difference.
thinking about paying off, would you pay off a 2% loan and then not get 5%? But I wanted you to kind of think about that for 2029, because some of these items, especially in the sewer fund, probably need to be done in 2025 and 2026. But there's going to come a time where you're not going to have that big debt that you're paying. And that's when the town took over the sanitation district. Now, from what I can tell in the records, the town took over the sanitation district's loan of $3 million, and they only borrowed like $1.6 million. So I'm still trying to get to the bottom of some of the other things that we're paying. We're also paying an admin fee, $38,000 a year for admin fees for that big loan. But the interest rate still is better to have it in Colorado Trust versus paying that off. So I wanted you to kind of keep that in mind when you're thinking about some of these items that you're going to see. So I'm going to let you go ahead and do
Real
the
quick,
sewer.
I got a question though. So the loan itself has an admin fee that's annual that we pay, that's 38 grand?
Yes.
Because you have to take that in consideration when you're doing
I
the
did.
calculation between the
I
2 and
did,
the
yeah.
5%? So is the 2% including that $38,000 fee, or is it still?
It's
is it still like a
it's
3%
closer to
spread?
4, but it's not as high as the Colorado Trust interest that
So
we're
it's
getting.
still,
Yeah.
it's still giving us more, okay. Then you don't want to do that. That'd be like shooting
We
yourself.
good, we're going sewer,
Bang.
county water?
Let's get into it.
Number,
And just for the sake of time, we're just gonna kind of go through 2025, if that's okay with you guys?
Yes.
I'm good.
So, the nutrient project final, we have $5,000 in there to finish that. The major construction's done there. We just have, some additional programming and some spots we wanna make sure, follow up once we get the ORP probes up and running, so that's gonna be a minimal cost. The I&I fee, we did deploy flow meters throughout the system this year. They'll run through October through irrigation. And this is for the actual construction. We have $250,000 in here. We want to do a lining project with downtown. So those fees have been being collected through our utility payments for a while. So we're going to start making some of those improvements and get some of that inflow and infiltration out of our wastewater plant. We have half of a truck. We have two
This year
people,
with the
one
water.
vehicle that's over 20 years old right now that people driving around. A 2004 Dodge Dakota. We would like to replace that this year with a new pickup. We were going to do half through the sewer fund and half through the water fund. So in your packet, you'll see it says $25,000. That should be $35,000. So we're not going to be able to buy a $50,000 pickup and outfit it. There needs to be $10,000 added to that. Line item.
Yes.
For both, or,
In both funds. yeah.
so it'd be
So it'd be
another,
$70,000
$70,000,
total.
okay.
We can get a unit up for 60 grand, but we also need to outfit it, orange lights, you know, decals and stuff like that as well too. The solar project, EPC, that's the energy audit that we're doing right now, so that's all specific to certain funds. We have $192,000 in the sewer fund for some of those energy savings. The stone
Bless you.
security, we talked about that. I don't know if that's something that you guys want to kind of push out outside of 2025. But that's for the security cameras and the security system.
And I would kind of think that maybe that would be necessary when we actually get the master park plan, if for some reason there's funding to do that. So I kind of maybe push it out to unknown. It's pretty protected right now because I mean, the park committee that we had the other day didn't even know where it was at. So,
Most people don't.
they don't need to know.
the dog park. But, so, I mean, that's something we saw that you guys were talking about before, so I don't know if that's something you wanna push out.
The EPC, or the
26,
stone security?
Stone security.
Can we just make it unknown? Revisit it next year?
Yeah, we can.
Maybe put it next year and then revisit it?
Has there ever been any vandalism with any of your water sewer?
Not like the Parks and
We
Rec.
had a little bit on the tanks.
Uh-huh.
We had somebody shooting with paintballs one year,
Mhm.
you know, so we try and take that down. But, knock on wood, not necessarily. Plus, people aren't really looking to go break into a sewer plant.
They don't wanna go.
Not the most pleasant place on earth, they're like, man.
It's all you can eat.
Yeah, the biggest thing we get down there, we get dog walkers. So we do get dog walkers that go down, because you can get river access on that side. But we haven't had a whole lot of issues. And then we also do have a locking coded gate, so the sewer plant's actually enclosed and,
Okay.
6 foot security fence.
I was just thinking about the event in, I think it was South Carolina, where those people showed up and went nuts on the transfer stations and blew things up. And I wouldn't think we have people like that here, but
Let's hope not.
maybe. So that's more what I was thinking about was, you know, is there a safety issue in protecting the infrastructure with having security cameras? Do you feel like that's,
I think eventually we would like to have security cameras.
yeah?
But not
On all the town facilities, but I just don't know if that's necessarily something that we do.
The priority,
all out
yeah.
in 25, or if, like Chief was saying before, start with town hall, put that infrastructure in, and then build on it over time. And Katie makes a good point, the park's gonna grow around it if we do the master plan. Maybe that might be the appropriate time to look at that security system.
Okay.
Jeremy, I have a question on the sewer tap main replacement.
Sure.
Is there a possibility to get grants on something like that for infrastructure?
There's a possibility, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to,
We get grant for some matching funds as well.
what's that?
Yeah, we could use this for matching funds for grant funding.
Yeah,
We'd always like to see if we could extend the project. We're kind of done with the data collection phase. The flow monitors will be the last section. So we're gonna confirm all of the data that we got from the GPRS camera inspection. And then what we're really trying to do this year is put together a construction project for 2025. So we wanna construct a 25 and 26 with those I&I funds. And right now, we're looking at probably something downtown is what it looks like, but we really want to see what those flows are doing during irrigation season and make sure that we're, you know, targeting the appropriate area to get the most flows reduced.
And the other thing is that you're doing this on private lines, and that may not be grant funded.
right.
So those would be issues, and we would have to have those agreements with the owners to actually have that done, so.
Fingers crossed.
Private lines? Oh, because it's on the taps.
Yeah, it's on their service line.
So they have technology now that you can go in through the main and technically line a portion of a private service line up there. And so what we'd like to do is put those top hats in, and where we do have a lot of I&I from those fees that we've collected, is rehab that service line outside of the street. So that would take care of the most expensive part of the repair for the homeowner, if we could get them out of the street and the sidewalk. And then if we're still seeing a lot of inflows coming from the tap, we say, okay, hey, you're gonna need to replace your service line. But a lot of times what we see with homeowners is they'll get out to that sidewalk in the street, they don't know what to do with it. And that's where a lot of the costs accrue. So if we can do that non-invasively from internal, from the main, and line those, we're gonna be taking care of a lot of that large portion of the cost. Plus, we'll also be protecting the inflows, the hydraulic loading into the sewer plant. So that's the thought process behind it. Is it gonna work? We certainly hope so. But
Give it a go.
that's the plan. So, any other questions?
No.
Just moving the,
Security cameras.
security probably.
I would agree to that.
That is, looks like that does the sewer fund. Move on to water.
Yeah.
Okay, so, in 2025, we have the standby generators. You'll see there's $100,000 in 2024. This will be a 2-year project. So, what we're doing is working then they're also sizing the generators that we'll need. One is for the booster station for the mid tanks. We would like to have a generator backup so we can fill the upper tanks for Dove Ranch and the upper portion of our distribution system. And the other one is for the old part of the water treatment facility. So we have currently the town engineer sizing those generators and working on some of the infrastructure design. We'll expend $100,000 this year, then $160,000 will complete the construction of that project in '25. The meter replacement, $75,000. That's that 5-year plan that we started on, upgrading and updating all that old Neptune meters that were installed about 15 years ago. So we have 2 more years of that, and then we'll be through the whole system. We're going to take a 5-year break. So we're thinking we can get in a 10-year cycle with those, and then we're not having to spend, $500,000 replacing all of our meters in the system in 1 year. We can keep it to that $100,000 is the goal there.
Do we have any relocation dollars in here for actually relocating meters from underneath houses?
We'll be complete with that project this year.
That's awesome. Okay.
So, yeah, that was a 3-year project.
right
We
on.
moved 30 meters, well, 28 meters out from underneath houses out to the town right away, so we have access to them. And then, speaking of which, we did find one that got missed today when we were doing our rereads. So we have 3 left, but that'll be complete this year, and we have funds available to complete those. So that project will be complete. The only meters we'll have inside buildings will be like the ones at Town Hall. This is inside the high schools, the primary school, and stuff like that. But we don't think it's necessary to relocate those in those larger commercial buildings.
Yeah, especially because you have the keys.
The Los Pinos pump station. So what we want to do is start on the engineering, the design to upgrade the infiltration gallery for the pump station. Right now, we have capacity at the water treatment facility to be able to add another 1 million gallon filter up there, but we don't have the capacity from Los Pinos. So this would be to go through the engineering and actual pricing to see what it would cost to upgrade capacity there. Gravel in the flume, that's basically just to get us out of the clay when you drive down. If you've driven down Sausonon, there's a green gate with an access fence. We can drive in, we can go actually the reservoir and the flume where we measure that water. We'd like to put some road base in there and make it gravel and keep us out of the mud is what those dollars are for. The truck, that $25,000, that actually is supposed to be a free 35, so sorry about that, that's my mistake. We would like to actually upgrade the gravel and the roadway to the middle tank section. So we're looking at like $20,000 there, and that's probably something we would try and do in-house. So the gravel's starting to seep into the clay up there on top, and we're starting to get some weeds. So it's just time for some maintenance up on top. Solar batteries, this could probably just go into operations, $2,500 here. So that could just go into maintenance.
Where is he now?
Yeah.
Page 12.
Page 12,
The
line
water
1.
fund, so we have a water master plan that was adopted in 2018. It's going 7 years old right now, and so we would like to get that updated. But in internal conversations, I don't know if that's necessary at capital or if we just move that into engineering. So you'd see this come back in operations. So, stone security. Do we think we're just kind of moving the stone security until we can get it started there, or what do you think? The 2026 or 2027?
Let's just move it to 2027.
Okay.
You could get rid of the 40,000 then, Jim?
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah. I
Well,
think
that
we
was
can move
gone.
that into engineering.
Wait, am I hearing that right? Not, no on the 40?
No on the 40.
All right.
You'll see that come back up, so you may see an increase in the engineering when we come to operations.
Okay.
But in internal conversations, we didn't necessarily think that a master plan would qualify for necessarily a capital improvement as far as being an asset. So 90% of all the improvements that were identified in there with the water line replacement. So it's time for us to update that and then start thinking about future storage development. We did have a storage tank study done, so we do have, I guess, a benchmark that would say for what growth, how many houses developed would calculate into that design and construction for an additional 1 million gallon storage tank. And we're thinking that that probably be located over at
Just finish that once we're on this.
So those are the things that we're gonna get, going through the master plan. And then typically we like to do a 5 to 7 year process. I think, we'll be looking at updating the sewer master plan in 27 as well, it'll be 7 years. And that's water.
And we're also looking at that water efficiency plan, but we're hoping to get some grant funding for that plan. That's gonna help us with our landscaping standards and guidelines that we wanna put out, as well as water conservation efforts community-wide.
Yeah, and I think that'll be a useful tool as well. It's gonna be more proactive than reactive. Right now, what we have adopted is a drought management plan. I think you were in on that one, Tom, with us when we drafted that a few years back.
I was,
And
I
so
think.
that kind of just set those benchmarks where P4 drops out of P12. and
Yeah.
We have consequences. The efficiency plan is gonna be more educational, letting people know drought tolerant species, drip systems, low flow fixtures, or things like that, how they can conserve water. That's really, I think, what internally we've been talking about, and that's the direction we'd like to go, rather than enforcement, we'd like to do education and, trying to get, which,
There'll be a time for enforcement possibly, but we're hoping that
that's your
as
job.
we, as we grow too,
Yeah.
And as we're adding more water to, water rights to the town, we wanna make sure we're being good stewards of what we have. And there's a lot of ways we can do that and even conserve what we're using right now, so that's what we really wanna, the message we wanna get out there to the
Any questions on water?
No.
Comments? Suggestions?
Well, I was just gonna make the comment that it's really hard to say no on anything that's water, streets, those sort of things. Because you know that if you say no, that upkeep has to be deferred to the next year, no matter what. So you're just moving money over there. So I would like to see if we have the funds to pay for all the things he's requested.
Yeah, and something I'd just like to point out too, when you get to the last page there, you look at 2024 and you look at the total, that's $270,000 in 24 and $932,000 in 25. We have a really large EPC.
Yeah, it's $561,000.
Yeah, that's in here right now, and so when you take that 550 out,
It's more in line with what you
yeah,
did.
you start dropping back down to be more in line with the other years as you go through. So, it seems like a large number when you look at it, you're like, that's out of place. That EPC for the energy savings, and so if we can get that covered, with the grant costs, I think, you're gonna see that average looks a lot better for the capital.
I mean, is it possible once the adjustments are made of what we've talked about today, that we could get this in a Excel format?
Yeah.
I like to play with
I'm currently
those.
working on it.
Okay.
As we're going.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going, she's working.
Absolutely.
I just like to play with the, if I.
But you want it in an Excel,
I want
Excel,
it in
yeah.
actual Excel, not a PDF, thank you.
And if somebody gets it in Excel and wants it in a PDF, just let us know.
Yeah, this is a really good tool, and one other thing while you're saying that is that this was one of the things that they used as a tool in the budget session that I went to CML. They added one more thing, anything that was a grant, they highlighted that cell in a different color. And that was helpful for their team to do that, just a suggestion.
So we will have some of these capital improvements with grants separate that will be eligible for grants or proposed grants.
Okay.
I did do the same thing on the total page 2 while we were looking stone security, I did the same thing for the EPC, so you could see that that's 2,700,000.
Oh, perfect.
Streets,
So, the top 3 boxes are our annual, our standard maintenance that we've been doing annually. You see those kind of just carry out at the end of the time. The 40,000 for crack seal, we'd like to do another $200,000 of surface treatment. That may be slurry, liquid road, chip seal, whatever that is. Just basic maintenance to try and increase the service life of our roads. And then the 55,000 for the striping. The 55,000 for the striping, we've got a 3-year contract with Branson. This will be year number 2, and they've guaranteed us that price through 2025, which they seem to think that that's reasonable. One of the reasons we've gone to the contract, when we were doing the center line striping and the shoulder striping, we did notice that it's non-reflective. So when, during the winter months and during snow, when the roads would get wet, that center line would go away. And so in internal conversations, it does put a liability somewhat on the town, especially for our collector streets. If we don't necessarily have that line that's clearly defined for crossing, it could be opened up maybe for a lawsuit. So at that point in time, we opted to go to the contract, which this is all through the 1% sales tax that we use for our road maintenance, so we're able to cover that cost. Wayfinding signs and directory, $54,000.
And if we did want a big sign replacement, that number needs to rise.
Right.
So
And-
wanna see that sign on Bayfield Parkway actually match our current, cause that, the sign is green and it says our old slogan
Right.
and everything, so painting is not really fixing the issue because we've already done a wayfinding project, we've already done a new brand, so we really need to replace the sign, so we need to raise that money. We want to replace that sign.
So for the wayfinding, was there grant money available for that, or,
Might be, we have to look.
okay,
When Pueblo Community College was here, we did talk about partnering, but they're gone,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure. But yeah, we always be more than happy to look at any opportunities for, cost sharing. There.
Yeah, for instance, the library. I mean, wayfinding should really cover all of our public, quasi-public locations in the community. So one piece is the monument sign, so that you know you've entered the community. And that's what that green sign is on Bayfield Parkway, and that's what the stone sign is on the Highway 160. But then you have internal signs that direct people to the different locations, like the senior centers. I'll be honest,
That's
if
so
you've
hard
never
to
been
find.
there, it's hard one to find.
Yeah.
And so having wayfinding for that, and I think that's what Carrie really wants to see, but we have a library, and we have Joe Stevenson, we have town hall, and
That's
we
what I was
have,
gonna say, if you want some money from parks for that, to add to that too, I'm fine with that.
Well, the
And we-
majority of the stuff that we are replacing are
Remember
street
share.
signs, you know what I mean? So they are, they're, I think it's in the appropriate fund.
and when we started pricing it, the wayfinding program it's fancy, and it's expensive. Signs were designed to be expensive, and so we started looking, when we were talking to Pueblo, we started looking at, can we do a different material and change it, so it's not exactly what was spec'd, but it's our wayfinding program, we can reduce the cost, and still have a good sign, so that's something that we wanna look into, is how can we, when we send the specs directly to the sign companies, the quotes are huge. How do we reduce some of that? So we got some suggestions from sign companies on like these.
oh, okay, okay.
And one of the other signs, that East Mill Gateway, have you noticed that the handrail goes right through the middle of the Bayfield sign when you turn down there?
Yes.
So that's something we need to address.
Yes.
We were talking about that, do we just extend the poles and get the old sign up above there, so it doesn't look so tacky? When you drive through, where we have that sign cut for now, and then look at some of these dollars to maybe update that to the rebranding.
Yeah. It has old branding too.
I'm happy to see it on here again, because we haven't touched with other wayfinding signs in a while.
I think part of it's finding a vendor that will do it and actually working with them. And so we do, I think that we're getting there, better, with better input, so.
Page 14, so we have the Central Mill sidewalks, that needs to be, $250,000. So the center section sidewalks from Mill, that's what we're doing right now, is the $525,000 that's on here, and that's what we're trying to work through design, is how we're gonna connect both that west and east portion that's on here. The third box down, the Central Mill sidewalks, the $250,000, I think that's a duplicate
Yeah.
that's on there, right now, because we're kind of duplicating the same process, so I kind of
Duplicate,
got
like
mine.
take it off?
Take it off, yeah.
I would, because it's doing the same process as, the Center Mill, the $525,000.
I'm okay with that.
Unless you wanna make it 700 and,
Nope.
or 825, whatever that math is on.
No
I'm getting close to $1 million, I don't know how to count that high. That kind of money. But, I think the third box is a duplicate, and that's,
the fourth.
that's my
We already determined the fourth one's a duplicate.
third.
Third and fourth boxes
Fourth?
are duplicates.
Okay, yeah,
So
and
we're already
so
down
US
to
Highway 160 and
1.2.
Bayfield Parkway, that signalized intersection, we can draw a line through that too.
Oh, you just saved $3.2 million.
Good job, Jeremy.
Oh, that one, yeah, we already took
The
that.
next box down is a street sweeper for $120,000. See all the dollars we just crossed out?
Oh, that, uh-huh.
There was a method to your madness.
Demo, it's called a multi-hop, so it has multiple attachments that go on there. We can get a demo model for $120,000. It'll start with a street sweeper, and it does have a leaf attachment.
Oh, that's nice.
I think at this point in time, the amount of hours we're spending cleaning up road sand, and also if you see the guys down on Mill Street trying to spray all the weeds from under the cars, and then get in with a construction attachment and try and sweep that stuff up at 4. We would like to propose actually getting a street sweeper. We'd save a ton of time. We could send one guy in early in the morning that can do the job at 4, and it's gonna pay for itself.
And it won't create that dust cloud.
Yeah, some of the complaints now
Yeah.
too, you know. But that is proposal, that's for you to approve or disapprove. And what else do I got at 25? There's gotta be more stuff in here.
Well, I don't know,
That's
you
it?
spent a
You've
lot,
done all
Jeremy.
right, yeah.
I think you spent a lot, I think you're good.
And we can go back and go over that fund by page if you guys if you want.
I also think that,
Omissions.
I think on this, street fund, or maybe it could be on the stormwater, is stormwater drain, possibly to look at.
Any more questions on the street?
Nope.
Before we do move on, I do have one question. So if you get your street sweeper, are you gonna sell or get rid of those construction attachments you have on the front of your backhoes for sweeping, or will you still keep them? Do they still work as good as what that will do, or?
They don't work near as what this will do. This actually has a vacuum enclosed street sweeping, dust control, and water, and you can back it up and dump it into a 6-yard dumpster. So we'd be able to consume all of the water bottles, trash. 4th of July, all the candy and stuff that's out there on the street, we'd be able to clean that up. We'd be able to sweep up those heritage days, the sheep trailings and all that. We've gotten pretty attuned to the day after the sheep. We go sweep the poop, because joggers hate sheep poop. So we get that moved out of the way.
Who would have thought?
So this would actually allow us to do that with less man hours. You're using 3 guys and 2 pieces of equipment, where you can have 1 person, 1 piece of equipment, and accomplish probably more than we do, at that time. But, would we get rid of them? I don't know.
I was just curious if that would be if you
We
sell them
probably
and put
use
it
an
into it,
angle
or?
broom. We still use an angle broom for the walk path, like on the parkway.
Mhm.
And then some of the places on the north, it works really good for the walking path at Dove Ranch, or after Heritage Days, and then we'll sweep that. The pickup for the backhoe, I'm not sure, we have to revisit it. I don't know if it makes sense to keep it or auction it.
Yeah,
And
that's what
offset
I was
the
just
cost of
curious
the
about.
sweeper.
Stormwater?
So stormwater, I did get a confirmation from Goldman's office today that he will be available July 29th at 6:30 PM to have stormwater management next steps. So we can delay this page for that discussion.
I would think add one more line to it though, and possibly add in looking at our current stormwater drains on our streets.
That's what they're doing. Yeah, we have a feasibility study that,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, it just says Dove Ranch only, so I was just making sure that we're looking at the whole picture, not just one.
So we can put the amount in there for the stormwater drainage, their first estimate, they're gonna finalize that, but we didn't want them to finalize it until we figured out if we're gonna move ahead or not, so.
Okay.
So Katie, I think it's important to recap where we were and where we are now with Stormwater Enterprise Fund. This town and its leaders over the years have known that stormwater has been an issue. They had a 2014 report done, and nothing was done at that time. We've had citizens show up in these meetings. I attended as a public member, very angry that the cost of their damage to their property and their homes was on them. You know, the last board understood that a stormwater enterprise fund was a necessary, best and good step, and then they passed that. And then we had more reports done, feasibility studies, updated them, master drainage report, had Plummer come in, give us rate breakdowns. This board agreed to do a $10 stormwater enterprise fund fee, and that's 2/3 less than it was suggested by Plumbers. Plumbers was $29 per month. We all gave the thumbs up for a $10 fee. We felt like that was something we could stomach. I did some research, and other municipalities in Colorado, they charge $10 for a stormwater fee, so it's within reason. And I know that we've sat in here, I've sat on this board, and we've looked stalwart citizens in the eye and said, it's a top priority, and something needs to be done about it. We are.
Well, we're gonna talk about it more next week.
Right.
So
I know.
we'll put it off till then.
I know, but I have something to say.
We're talking about it next week.
And she has something to say.
She
I
said
think
it.
she
We're
said
done.
it.
We're
I
moving
think she
on.
can say
We're
it.
going on to housing fund.
So the housing fund, it looks like we're getting closer to a contract with the state, and the county will not finish that contract until the state's contract is reviewed. And we're also working on a contract with Silver Mountain as well. So those will be coming to, I don't know about August 6th, but soon.
I'm hopeful soon we can bring that to you and for your discussion and decisions.
I'll be happy to review what I have to say at the next meeting.
So just a little bit on the Corcoran property that is directly west of the Dove Ranch where that was going to be. When I talked to Chris LeMay, he gave me a tour of the town when I first got here, talked about the previous owner before Corcoran owned it, what they were going to do and the cost for that. We just had a new email from Mr. Corcoran, and the price is starting to go up. So just so you're aware, the longer we wait, his change was getting more complex than it was actually 3 or 4 years ago, so.
Is that it?
It's up to you. We have just the meetings that are coming up. Like I said, Michael Goldman will be here on the 29th at 6:30. We also have SGM that will either Zoom in or be here. And then we've got a lot of people that were interested in stormwater. I did put a survey out on stormwater on Facebook. I don't have a whole lot of responses, but I'll make sure that that's in your packet for Monday night too.
And is there a, you'll post that ice cream on the Facebook? You'll
Yes.
post our ice cream, yep.
Excellent.
That was a very, that was a short version. Left a lot of words out of that sentence. Ice cream, Facebook.
The county commissioners, I should say Chuck Stevens is asking if the August 6th breakfast could be Zoom only instead of breakfast. And very honestly, breakfast on a Monday in Bayfield has been challenging. So would you like to Zoom at 7:30?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zoom.
Okay, eat breakfast at home.
I will be out of town from the 5th until the 8th.
Till the 8th. So
So
you'll miss,
I'll
you'll
miss a
miss the
meeting.
6th, and then the 7th, we have the FTE or personnel work session, and then the 8th is a block party, so.
Yeah, I'll be out of town from the 5th.
Okay, all right. Thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that.
So the June events, or upcoming events are on your agenda, and I'll adjourn this meeting at 9:20.
Oh, I have potato salad and coleslaw from Porky's, if somebody can take it home.
Oh, God.
What was your point about civility?
About what?
Civility, right? You seem terrible civility in this space.
What are you talking about?
Please take that home.
I know, huh? I'm like,
Yeah, she's grown up.
Right, exactly. No, I didn't know that. I mean, like, I saw that there was a water tank in the back of the property. But here's what I didn't know. But you weren't in the conference, and you weren't. No, I wasn't. And, I had no idea. I don't know if I can find it or not, but, of it to show you what happened. This is not the last one, but the storm prior
haven't developed, and they probably got declared bankruptcy, taking their money and running a long time ago.
All I gotta say is I'm really grateful that the field behind me
Rolls too, if somebody wants to take
is
rolls.
lower than my house. Because if the field behind me was not lower than my house, we would have been
Yeah, you just had another Burns call.
Yeah, I just think, I just,
But I also think, cause
I think of alternative ways to approach it, but I don't know, you know, I'm new at this. I've made mistakes before, I don't need to be called out and chastised for something like that. That's just me. I'm not gonna be raked over the coals over and over again.